Pokémon, the strongest trainer. Hey! Look who's back for more adventures. We love having you here to continue this story that keeps us all awake. Important note, all of this is pure fiction, so don't try any techniques you hear here in real life. Your neighbor might call the cops. This amazing novel and all its rights belong to the original author. We're just the ones giving it voice and drama. Are you enjoying the show? Prove it by subscribing to our YouTube channel and leaving that like that motivates us so much. And if you want VIP access to exclusive content, our Patreon is waiting with things you won't find anywhere else. Chapter 200 Pikachu in Killing Mode. March 21st, Friday. Alola region, lush cave. With a light pouring down from the ceiling, the dark caverns became remarkably bright. Nourished by the faint glow, the plants within flourished, appearing lush and green. Feng sat cross-legged on the pedestal of the Overlord Mongoose detective, silently pondering. He pulled out a notebook and began scribbling and recording relevant information, recording all the information he had gathered about Overlord Pokémon. After completing his notes, Feng turned his gaze to the Overlord Mongoose detective, crouching in the corner, and signaled with his eyes for him to come forward. The Overlord Mongoose detective, sensing Feng's caring gaze, displayed a look of deep sorrow and anger, ready to attack. But upon seeing the grinning Jengar beside Feng, the courage he had just risen in his heart vanished. Reluctantly, he approached Feng, helplessly lowering himself to allow him to pluck its fur for examination. Sprawled on the ground, Inspector Mongoose stared blankly at the nearby rock face, sighing. He looked utterly weak, pitiful, and helpless. Looking at the seemingly hopeless Inspector Mongoose, Feng chuckled softly and continued his research. Through these past few days of consultation and research, Feng had gradually grasped the key to making Pokémon dominant, and had also developed a general idea of how to extract the energy from the Radiant Stone. Half an hour later, after concluding his usual research, Feng glanced at Inspector Mongoose lying on the ground and said in a quiet voice, "Inspector Mongoose, thank you for your help these past few days. I'm leaving now." Inspector Mongoose, previously numb, suddenly lit up with an unprecedented light. He raised his head and growled at Feng, as if to confirm his words. He gazed at Feng's calm face, a flicker of excitement in his eyes, his heart filled with smug delight. If Feng and Jengar hadn't remained there, it would have burst out laughing. Feng noticed the change in Mongoose Inspector's aura. Reflecting on the past few days, he immediately understood what Mongoose Inspector was going through. Selanora, Mongoose Inspector, Feng shook his head and led Jengar out of the verdant caverns. If it weren't for the urgent need to conduct the Overlord transformation experiment, Feng would have been reluctant to leave the verdant caverns. With the help of the verdant caverns environment and the resources he had obtained from Mongoose Inspector, Jengar's normal strength had finally reached the level of a supreme. Including the recently captured Garchomp, Feng's team of supreme Pokémon was nearly complete. 10 minutes later, Feng and Jengar emerged from the verdant caverns, feeling the breeze and feeling a surge of joy. At that moment, his communicator in his backpack suddenly chimed. Hearing the ringing alarm, Feng paused for a moment before pulling out his own. A deluge of messages popped up on the communicator, leaving Feng dazzled. Perhaps due to the poor signal in the verdant cave, the messages Feng received were delayed, and a significant amount of time had already passed. He spent over 10 minutes reviewing the past few days' worth of messages, his brow furrowed. After reviewing all the information, Feng had a rough idea of what had transpired in the world during his time in the verdant cave. I didn't expect the storyline in Oradron City to begin so soon. Feng gazed towards the Kanto region, his eyes growing increasingly profound. He read the messages on the communicator and began to ponder his next plans. After a brief moment of contemplation, Feng considered his current affairs and decided to temporarily leave the Alola region and return to Kanto to participate in the storyline surrounding the world's beginning tree. For Feng, the goal of this trip to Alola had been largely achieved. Although he felt a pang of regret for not having gathered the Tapu wool from the remaining 3 islands, compared to the enchanting wool of the world tree, these were minor matters. After all, the world's beginning tree contained Aram's waveguide heritage, offering the opportunity to py the world tree's mew. Furthermore, Professor Oak had left a message asking Feng to keep an eye on Satoshi and the others. As for the remaining 3 Tapu in the Alola region, he could find an opportunity to fleece them later. With this thought in mind, Feng took out his Pokeball, retrieved Jengar, and released Garchomp. Feng embraced Garchomp, pointed in the direction of the Kanto region, and whispered, "Garchomp, target Kanto." Garchomp growled, folded its body, and extended its wings, transforming into a small jet. It flew towards Kanto at the speed of sound. After more than 3 days, Feng finally arrived in Vermilion City in Kanto. After a brief rest in Vermilion City, Feng contacted Professor Oak via the Pokémon Center communicator. He wanted to know if there had been any new developments in the situation in Oradron City over the past 3 days, and whether the trainers who had gone to Oradron City had found any trace of Mew. Only with this information could Feng decide his next move. After waiting for more than 10 seconds, Professor Oak's figure appeared on the Pokémon Center's large communicator. Feng looked at Professor Oak with a serious expression, looking through the display screen. "Professor, I've returned to the Kanto region. I wonder what the current situation is." Professor Oak's face lit up with worry, and he sighed. "Mew hasn't been found yet, but quite a few trainers have entered Oradron City. I heard that several of the Kanto League's top trainers have appeared in Oradron City." Feng listened carefully to Professor Oak's explanation, gradually gaining a rough understanding of the current situation in Oradron City. A moment later, Feng nodded to Professor Oak and said gratefully, "Thank you, Professor. I'll be heading to Oradron City now. I'll keep an eye on Satoshi and the others." Upon hearing this, the worry in Professor Oak's brow lifted considerably, and he breathed a sigh of relief. He said to Feng, "Feng, I'll leave it to you." After ending the call, Feng left the Pokémon Center and, with the help of Garchomp, flew straight towards Oradron City. Half a day later, under the fading light of the setting sun, Feng and Garchomp finally arrived in Oradron City. Oradron City was ablaze with lights and decorations, and every passerby's face was filled with excitement, as if some important celebration was underway. Feng stared at the scene with a bewildered expression. He then stopped a passerby and asked him his question. After a brief exchange, Feng finally understood the reason for the changes in Oradron City. Due to the influx of trainers seeking the Pokémon, Queen Irene of Oradron City decided to hold this year's Pokémon Battle Festival early, inviting all trainers to participate and celebrate the hero Aaron. As a result, the entire city was engulfed in a lively atmosphere. After learning about the situation, Feng headed towards the center of Oradron City. Soon, Feng arrived at the battle site in the city and happened to see Xiaozi, dressed in the hero Aaron costume, commanding his Pikachu and decisively defeating the opposing Parasaurolophus and Magma. Seeing this scene, Feng seemed to hear the opening music of the movie, and his expression became extremely complicated. "This Pikachu is so strong. It's already won 3 games in a row. Is this kid really a newcomer this year? He actually defeated that renowned Pokémon trainer? Judging from the situation now, this kid named Ash is very likely this year's Badeo Brave." At this moment, Feng's attention was instantly captured by the surrounding chatter and cheers. After hearing Ash and Pikachu's achievements, Feng couldn't help but click his tongue. He looked at the Pikachu in the arena with a strange expression of disbelief. "As expected of you, Pikachu. You're not just pretending this time, you're just going all out. Is this the powerful buff granted by the movie?" Feng wondered bewilderedly. In his impression, no matter how Pikachu was portrayed in the anime, even if it was a beginner Pokémon defeated by a newcomer, once it entered the movie mode, it was just a rampage. Even the legendary gods, even the alpaca who created the Pokémon world, are brave enough to confront Pikachu in the movie, defying all odds. It's a true portrayal of unparalleled mowing down. Suddenly, a burst of cheers erupted from the surroundings, snapping Feng out of his reverie. He looked in the direction of the cheers and saw Xiaozi, embracing Pikachu, standing in the brightly lit battlefield, a dazzling sight. Xiaozi had completed his winning streak, successfully clinching victory at the Pokémon Battle Festival and becoming this year's Broadway hero of Oradron City. Chapter 201 The Wave Hero and Lucario. The stars shone brightly, the lights blazed brilliantly. Magnificent fireworks rose from the night sky, illuminating the pitch-black sky. The entire city of Oradron was immersed in a festive atmosphere, filled with laughter and joy. With the Pokémon battle concluded, the spectators began to orderly exit the arena, preparing for the upcoming dinner dance. Feng, standing on a raised platform, glanced around, easily catching sight of Brock and Misty. He followed Brock and Misty's position, carefully avoiding the crowded crowd, and made his way directly to them. Brock and Misty were startled upon seeing Feng appear, and asked in astonishment, "Feng, are you here from you, too?" A smile crossed Feng's lips, and he nodded. But we didn't seem to see you at the competition. Didn't you participate in the battle held in the castle? Misty asked Lu Feng with some surprise, recalling the previous match. Lu Feng's eyes were calm, a carefree smile playing across his face. He pointed at his clothes and explained to Brock and Misty, I just returned from the Ulala region and arrived in Aladrin City. I see. No wonder we didn't see you at the Pokémon battle. Brock and Misty suddenly realized something. Just then, Ash, having won the match, arrived with Pikachu. Lu Feng gazed at the triumphant Ash and beamed with congratulations. Ash, congratulations on becoming the Aladrin City Wave Hero. Upon hearing Lu Feng's voice, Ash finally noticed him. Scratching his head sheepishly, he asked, Lu Feng, when did you get here? Why didn't I see you at the tournament? A look of frustration flashed in Lu Feng's eyes, and he repeated what he had just said to Misty and the others. After listening to Lu Feng's story, Xiaozi's eyes lit up with longing, and he said with a hint of envy, I didn't expect you to make it to the Ulala region. No wonder I haven't heard from you lately. Then, at Xiaozi and the other two's insistent invitation, Lu Feng accepted their invitation to the ball and followed them to a room filled with a variety of costumes. After some searching, Lu Feng chose a black medieval wizard's robe and dressed himself as a dark wizard. Time passed slowly, and in the blink of an eye, it was time for the dinner dance. At 7:30 p.m., with the sound of a solemn bell, the dinner in Aladrin City began. All attendees, guided by attendants, proceeded in an orderly manner to the magnificent castle hall. Under the gaze of the crowd, Xiaozi approached the queen's chair and began his audience with Queen Irene. Queen Irene smiled and nodded at Xiaozi, dressed in his hero's attire. She bestowed upon him the title of Badao Hero and handed him the staff, a symbol of bravery. I hope Xiaozi won't be frightened by the sudden surprise later, Lu Feng whispered meaningfully, looking at Xiaozi not far away. Using the wave power to detect, Lu Feng could clearly sense that the staff tightly grasped by Xiaozi was reviving a strong wave power. From the memories retained in his mind, he clearly knew that the reviving wave power must have come from Lucario, who had been sealed by Lang. At this time, with the conclusion of the awarding ceremony, the ball in the royal city officially began. Lu Feng watched the people begin to dance and shook his head slightly. He did not directly participate. Instead, he walked to the nearby dining table, picked up the delicious food, and silently savored it. Inadvertently, Lu Feng glanced at Xiaozi near the queen's seat, a strange smile on his face. Xiaozi was wearing the uniform of the brave Lang, holding the staff tightly in his hand. He sat uncomfortably in his chair, silently observing everyone. Sir, please don't move around. Please maintain your heroic image until the ball is over. The royal palace's housekeeper approached Xiaozi, leaning slightly forward and gently reminding him. Xiaozi looked at the housekeeper with despair and said pitifully, but I'm really hungry. It will be fine a little longer. Please be patient, the housekeeper said sternly, her eyes sharp. Xiaozi sighed helplessly and waited dejectedly. 2 hours later, the ball was drawing to a close. Queen Irene rose from her throne, slowly descended the steps, and addressed the crowd in the hall. Well, tonight's banquet ends here. The Badao Hero will see you off. As she finished her words, beautiful fireworks suddenly burst forth outside the magnificent hall, bringing the evening's banquet to a perfect end. At that moment, the housekeeper came over to Xiaozi, waking him from his drowsiness. She whispered, Sir, please strike a hero's pose. A hero's pose. Xiaozi looked at the housekeeper, bewildered. The housekeeper glanced at the wall to Xiaozi's left, signaling with her eyes what he should do. Suddenly, a sudden realization dawned on Xiaozi, and he followed the housekeeper's instructions, looking towards the portrait to his left. He saw a man dressed like him, holding a staff tightly in both hands and raising it high. Xiaozi stared at the portrait, slightly distracted. Coming to his senses, he quickly imitated the figure in the portrait, raising his staff in both hands and striking the same pose, smiling at the guests below. Lu Feng, seated in the corner, watched the scene from afar, his face lit with anticipation. Suddenly, after Ash struck the same pose as the hero Alan, the sapphire on his staff suddenly shone with an incredibly dazzling light. All the guests were about to leave when they saw the sudden change in Ash's position and stopped dead in their tracks, bewildered. As everyone watched, a brilliant beam of light flew from the staff. A powerful Lucario appeared in the hall of the royal city. Just like the original story, the Lucario was drawn to Ash's attire and the wave power emanating from him. It mistook Ash for the hero Alan and questioned him. Everyone was stunned by the unexpected Lucario, speechless for a long time. What's going on? Is this a special event organized by the city of Uldren? Hidden in the crowd, Sumo, dressed like a medieval aristocrat, held a selfie stick in her hand, watching the scene with a smug look. Her live stream was filled with the same symbol. The Team Rocket members, observing from a corner of the hall, were also somewhat bewildered by this sudden scene. Apollo, sensing the aura emanating from Lucario, couldn't help but approach Sakuki and respectfully inquire, "Boss, this Lucario is quite powerful. Should we take it?" Sakuki was silent for a moment, then shook his head at Apollo, signaling him not to act rashly. After all, their main purpose this time was Mew, not a Lucario of the power of a king. If plundering the Lucario drew the attention of the Kanto Alliance, and their operation was ultimately in vain, that would be a truly disastrous outcome. After receiving Sakuki's instructions, Apollo nodded slightly, warning Team Rocket, still hiding in Oradron City, not to act rashly. At the same time, Sakuki seemed to recall something, and his voice deepened. "Haven't you found the target yet?" Apollo, sweating profusely at this, replied in a trembling voice, "Boss, the target hasn't appeared yet, but according to our instruments, it should still be within Oradron City. Have your men find the target as quickly as possible. The Alliance should be arriving soon, and we're running out of time," Sakuki said calmly, glancing at Satoshi and the others on the stage. Apollo nodded respectfully and, while everyone was distracted, left the hall. Meanwhile, the four kings of the Kanto region, standing somewhere in the crowd, gazed at the suddenly appearing Lucario, a rare expression of surprise on their faces. "Is this the Lucario that the brave Aaron possessed?" Grandma Kakuko said hoarsely. Kona, dressed in the attire of a medieval noblewoman, examined it carefully and replied somewhat coldly, "According to the legends of Oradron City and the way this Lucario appeared, it must be the same Lucario from over 1,000 years ago. How incredible!" Yolongdu stared at the Lucario not far away and sighed softly. Zib remained silent, but the hate in his eyes was undisguised. "What's going on? Why did a Lucario suddenly appear?" Xiaogang and Xiaoxia stared at the Lucario on the stage, their eyes filled with confusion, and they couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. Lu Feng quietly observed the Lucario on the stage. He could sense the wave power in his body, as if influenced by Lucario, surging violently, like surging ocean waves. "This must be the Lucario of the brave Elang," Lu Feng said calmly to Xiaoxia and the others. After hearing Lu Feng's answer, Xiaoxia and Xiaogang showed incredible expressions on their faces, and said in disbelief, "This shouldn't be possible. Isn't that Lucario a Pokémon that's over 1,000 years old?" Lu Feng didn't say anything, but pointed at the staff in Xiaoxia's hand. Xiaogang and Xiaoxia looked at the staff, recalling what had just happened, and suddenly fell silent. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 202: The World's Beginning Tree. Elsewhere, in a room in the attic of the royal castle, Ash's Pikachu was chasing and playing with several of his Pokémon. Suddenly, a pink kitten transformed into a cute Pichu and joined their game. Pikachu tilted its head, looking at the suddenly appeared Pichu with a puzzled expression. "Pikachu, Greek letter Omega?" Pikachu scratched its head and greeted it. "Nah," the Pichu replied with a grin, covering its mouth. At Pikachu's invitation, the Pichu joined the group and began playing. Just then, Meow from Team Rocket appeared, arriving alone in the attic where Pikachu was. As soon as it entered, Pikachu and the others turned and looked at Meowth. Under the gazes of Pikachu and the other Pokémon, Meowth felt a tingling sensation on his scalp and his legs trembled uncontrollably. Pikachu recognized Meowth and was about to unleash a 100,000 volt attack on him, letting him experience his usual joy. "Wait a minute. Meow, TT." Meowth seemed to see what Pikachu was planning and said fearfully, "I'm not here for you this time, Meow, Pikachu." Pikachu glanced at Meowth suspiciously, his eyes filled with distrust. "I'm here from you, not to capture you, Meow." Cyrillic letter deck, "We can call a truce. There's no need for violence, Meow." Meowth assured Pikachu of their objective. Pikachu nodded in understanding and called out to the surrounding Pokémon, signaling them to retreat. But they found the uninvited Pichu still standing there, staring intently at Team Rocket's Meowth with eyes full of bewildered curiosity, making it shudder. Meow, why are you staring at me like that? Meow, Meowth, sensing the Pichu's gaze, snapped back, as if venting its anger at being surrounded. The Pichu looked at Pikachu, then at the talking Meowth, then transformed into Pikachu, then back into Meowth, and began to walk around them. Pikachu. Meowth, Cyrillic lettered S Cyrillic lettered X. Oh, Meowth asked, somewhat fearfully, stretching out her right hand and groping the Pichu, now in her own form. The Pokémon transformed from Meowth back into Pichu again, inviting Pikachu and Meowth to play. Pikachu and Meowth exchanged glances, and upon realizing the Pokémon wasn't intending to attack, they slowly nodded. Seeing Pikachu and Meowth agree, the Pokémon immediately transformed back into its original form, fluttering through the air like a happy cat. "It's Mew!" Meowth exclaimed, gazing at the pink cat in the air. "Pikachu!" Pikachu exclaimed, a look of utter surprise on her face. They had never imagined they would encounter their target so easily. They were just about to leave the attic to inform the others of Mew's appearance. But before they could act, Mew erupted in a pale blue light, carrying Pikachu and Meowth with him, disappearing into the attic. The remaining Pokémon in the attic panicked upon seeing Pikachu vanish, and they hurried toward the hall, intent on informing Ash and the others. Lucario's sudden appearance cast a tense mood throughout the hall. After confirming that Ash was indeed not a Lang, Lucario glanced around, frowned, and quickly dashed out of the hall, disappearing. Queen Irene looked in the direction where Lucario had disappeared and asked the housekeeper beside her, "Is this the Pokémon Lucario who once followed a hero Lang?" The housekeeper nodded earnestly and said to Queen Irene, "Yes, Your Highness." Ash, standing not far away, overheard their conversation and raised his staff. He stared at the vibrant sapphire and asked in disbelief, "Lucario? It's in there, what on earth is going on?" Queen Irene recalled some records and sighed softly. She offered her apologies to the remaining guests. The guests nodded to the queen and left the palace hall. Seeing the guests disperse, Feng, Xiaoxia, and the others took the opportunity to approach Ash. Then, led by Queen Irene, they arrived at the room in the palace where the hero's belongings were displayed. Lucario, who had just escaped from the hall, was now in this room, carefully examining the layout, as if searching for a scene from his memory. "Lucario," Queen Irene called softly, looking at Lucario, whose back was turned. Lucario suddenly snapped out of his trance at the sound of the voice behind him. Turning around, his eyes lit up with surprise the moment he saw Queen Irene, and he excitedly said, "Your Highness Lin." Queen Irene stared at Lucario, not far away, and said in a low voice, "I'm sorry, Lucario, I'm not Lin, my name is Irene. Over 1,000 years have passed since Lin's time, how could that be?" Lucario's pupils constricted slightly, and he looked distraught. Queen Irene reached out and embraced Lucario, revealing everything. Then, Irene looked at Lucario with a hint of confusion, unable to resist asking, "Lucario, legend has it that you disappeared during the war. Why are you here in the staff? What happened here?" Lucario was silent for a moment, then recalled what had happened. His face darkened, and he explained to the crowd with hatred, "Lord Yaling abandoned the city and fled, sealing me within the staff." Everyone frowned at Lucario's words. Xiaozi couldn't help but ask, "Wasn't it a brave Yaling who saved the city of Oradron? How is that possible?" Lucario said grimly, his eyes gleaming with blood. "The legend is exactly as Xiaozi said," Queen Irene said softly, her eyes shimmering with emotion. At this moment, Feng slowly emerged, a glint of pity in his eyes, and spoke softly. "Lucario, sometimes what you see isn't always true." A confused Lucario slowly turned his head upon hearing Feng's voice. Hearing Feng's wave aura, he froze in shock, mumbling, "Another wave user." Everyone present stared at Feng in astonishment, speechless for a long moment. A momentary silence fell over the room. Suddenly, a strange noise echoed from outside, and Ash's Squirtle and Bulbasaur rushed in anxiously. They gestured at Ash, but due to language barriers, Ash had no idea what they were trying to say. Seeing the anxious Ash and the others, Lucario spoke directly, "They're trying to tell you that your Pikachu and Meowth have been taken away by Mew." Ash glanced at Lucario with some surprise and thanked him. Then, he anxiously asked, "Lucario, do you know where Mew took my Pikachu?" Lucario looked at the anxious Ash, the image of the brave Alan resurfacing in his mind. He fell silent, not answering Ash's question. Queen Irene studied the anxious Ash and sighed softly. After exchanging a glance with the housekeeper, she spoke to Ash, as if making a firm decision. If it's Mew, she should be at the first world tree near Auradron City. The first world tree. Ash turned to look at Queen Irene, bewildered. According to the records in Auradron City, Mew resides at the first world tree, Queen Irene said in a low voice, gazing out at the moonlight from the windowsill. After receiving the news about Mew, Ash immediately made up his mind. He asked Queen Irene for the exact location of the first world tree, intending to go and retrieve his Pikachu. Seeing Ash's resolve, Queen Irene pleaded with Lucario, hoping it would accompany Ash to the beginning tree. Lucario squinted at Ash's warrior attire, anger in his eyes, snorted, and closed his eyes tightly. Feng, observing the scene before him, knew they needed Lucario to lead the way to the beginning tree. Otherwise, with Ash and his three companions prone to getting lost even with a map, reaching the beginning tree would likely take forever. After a moment's reflection, Feng looked at Lucario and said intriguingly, "Legend has it that a flower of time grows on the beginning tree, capable of recording historical information within a certain time frame. Perhaps this journey will reveal some truth about the hero Aram's past." Lucario suddenly opened his eyes, gave Feng a long look, and agreed to lead them to the beginning tree. Chapter 203 The Quietly Blooming Flower of Time. The next day, the sky brightened and the sun rose. After breakfast, Feng, Ozzy, and the others prepared to depart. Queen Irene and Hermione watched them leave Auradron City and headed for the first world tree with Lucario. Auradron City hadn't become deserted by the Pokémon Battle Festival's conclusion. On the contrary, numerous Pokémon trainers were still flocking to Auradron City from around the world. Looking at the constant influx of trainers, Feng couldn't help but curl his lips and shake his head. With everything ready, Feng, in the off-road vehicle provided by Queen Irene, led Ozzy, the others, and Lucario toward the distant, looming first world tree. Unbeknownst to them, a drone was lurking in the sky, observing their movements from behind. "Musashi, the brats are already on the move. Let's follow them," Kajiro said, looking at the drone feed. Musashi nodded and said firmly to Kajiro, "This time, we're not only going to rescue Meowth, but we're also going to capture Pikachu and Mew. By the way, Kajiro, remember to report our actions to Boss Sakuki. He personally instructed us to do that." Kajiro gestured and reported their route and plan to Sakuki and the others hiding in Auradron Castle. Kajiro and Musashi had initially grown distraught after discovering Meowth was missing, but after accidentally overhearing a conversation between Satoshi and Queen Irene, they suddenly came to a decision. To raise funds to build new machines and launch a new campaign, the broke Musashi and Kajiro had no choice but to inform Sakuki of their plans, hoping to secure new funding. After receiving the information from Kajiro and Musashi, Sakuki immediately allocated a large sum of funds and issued stern instructions. He instructed Kajiro and Musashi to promptly report their route to the Team Rocket members lurking within the city. In a residential building within Auradron, Athena, upon receiving the message from Kajiro and his companions, immediately approached Sakuki and respectfully handed him the relevant information. Sakuki carefully examined the documents in his hands, then paused for a moment before looking up at Athena and saying, "Athena, call Apollo and the others. We're ready to depart." Athena nodded and quickly left Sakuki's room. A moment later, Team Rocket, hidden within Auradron, began an orderly retreat, heading towards the world's beginning tree, following the message from Musashi and Kajiro. Meanwhile, the four heavenly kings of the Kanto region, seeing their fruitless wait for Mew within Auradron, also considered leaving. But they didn't intend to return to the Quartz Plateau. Instead, they planned to head directly for the first tree. As an official authority in the Kanto region, they naturally knew more about the secrets than ordinary trainers. They had long known that Mew resided within the first tree and that it was protected by the three pillars. Any unauthorized entry into the first tree's territory would inevitably be met with a combined attack from the three pillars. Therefore, they didn't immediately head for the first tree, but instead traveled to Auradron City, where Mew had occasionally appeared, hoping to encounter her there. To their disappointment, Mew never appeared. This dashed the plans of Yolongdu and the others. Finally, after some discussion and a vote, they decided to head directly for the first tree. Elsewhere, Sumo, after seeing the dinner dance conclude, also left Auradron City. After all, she was just a live streamer, not a true Pokémon trainer. Therefore, she didn't linger in the city for long, but continued her search for new materials. Okay, everyone, the Pokémon Battle Festival in the city is over, and it's time for us to leave. Sumo straightened her phone, smiled sweetly, and spoke to the camera. The comments on the live stream scrolled rapidly, filling the entire screen in just a dozen seconds. Oh, what a shame. We're leaving already? We haven't even seen which trainer will be able to capture Mew? Capture Mew? You're kidding. Do you even know what a legendary Pokémon is? If you're really unsure, you can go to the forums and look for the pictures uploaded by the big guys during the New Island incident. That's right, you really want my wife to stay in such a dangerous place? I see you're truly evil. Sumo looked at the comments on the live stream, smiled slightly, and couldn't help but ponder. After a moment of thought, she addressed the crowd. Everyone, where do you want me to go next? I'll do whatever you say. After Sumo finished speaking, she raised her selfie stick and slowly spun it in a circle, filming the surroundings for everyone in the live stream. The audience in the live stream pondered Sumo's words and fell silent. Then, a sharp-eyed viewer, momentarily stunned by the looming towering tree in the distance, quickly posted a request to the live stream, which went viral. Goddess Momo, look, there's an incredibly large tree behind you. I beg you to go to that tree and do a live stream exploring its secrets. Upon seeing this comment, everyone else in the live stream shared the same message, urging Sumo to explore the tree. Sumo glanced at the comments and instinctively looked up at the nearby tree, her entire body dazed. If she hadn't seen it with her own eyes, Sumo really couldn't believe that trees in this world could grow so big. When she came to her senses, she nodded to the camera and agreed to the netizens' request. After all, Sumo was also very curious about such a huge tree. Time flew by, and in a blink of an eye, Feng and others arrived at the range of the world's original tree. As they continued to move forward, the fog around them gradually became thicker. Obscured by this thick fog, Feng and the others couldn't see the specific direction at all, let alone continue to move forward. Even using the large searchlight on the car, it was impossible to shine through the thick fog that shrouded the area and find the specific direction. The fog around us is so thick, how can we find the world's original tree? Xiozhi looked at the scene in front of him with some frustration, and couldn't help clenching his hands, saying somewhat unwillingly. Feng frowned, pondering for a moment. He turned his gaze to Lucario and pleaded in a deep voice, Lucario, I'll leave this to you. Lucario glanced at Feng and the others indifferently, snorted, and then left the SUV. Using its waveguide power, it surveyed the area ahead of the SUV, providing guidance. Feng, looking at Lucario ahead, switched his high beams to low, and followed Lucario's steps at a slow pace. Seeing this, Xiaozi immediately understood Queen Irene's intention and said in a low voice, no wonder Queen Irene allowed Lucario to accompany us. So that's how it is. After a while, Feng and the others, guided by Lucario, finally emerged from the dense fog surrounding the world's beginning tree. Vision gradually cleared. It was already midday. They searched for a clear spot nearby. Xiaogang unpacked food and tools, preparing lunch for Feng and the others. Xiaozi looked at the tree of the beginning of the world not far away, his eyes full of dimness, and said with some worry, I wonder how Pikachu is doing now. Feng walked to his side, patted Xiaozi's shoulder gently, and said to him, don't worry too much, although Mew is a little naughty and curious, it is not a vicious legend after all. Pikachu will be fine. Maybe it took Pikachu away just to let Pikachu play with it. Xiaozi showed a far-fetched smile on his face, sighed silently and said, I hope so. Suddenly, Xiaozi seemed to have discovered something inadvertently, and hurriedly stood up and walked to a large rock nearby to group. A moment later, Xiaozi held a blooming crystal flower in front of Feng and asked curiously, Feng, do you know what this is? Feng gazed at the crystal flower in Xiaozi's hand and said with a complicated expression, this is the flower of time. The flower of time? Is this the one you mentioned yesterday? Xiaozi felt a sense of familiarity after hearing Feng's answer. After thinking carefully, he asked hesitantly. Feng nodded, glanced at Lucario, who was sitting nearby, and said in a deep voice, legend has it that the flower of time records certain fragments of the past, allowing beings who use wave power to see certain events that happened in the past. After he finished speaking, he directly injected his wave power into it. As Feng's wave power poured in, the green crystal-like flower of time shimmered with a dazzling light. Under the gaze of Feng and Xiaozi, the flower of time quietly blossomed. Chapter 204, Rock God Pillar, Reggie Rock. As the flower of time blossomed, the fragments of information contained within it appeared before Lu Feng and Xiaozi like virtual projections. Numerous phantoms of Pokémon appeared around them. Each Pokémon wore ancient armor, though in two distinct colors. Like a torrent, they engaged in a ferocious battle, creating a vast scene. Smoke filled the air. Flames shot up into the sky. One Pokémon after another collapsed from injury and exhaustion, only to be joined by new Pokémon. Their position served as a dividing line, a constant battle for control between the two factions. Even through the phantoms, Lu Feng and Xiaozi could sense the ferocity of this Pokémon war. They could even hear the cries and wails of the nearby first tree. "What's going on?" Xiaozi asked, his pupils constricted, a look of terror on his face. "Why are there so many Pokémon fighting?" Lu Feng's eyes dimmed, and he spoke in a low voice. "This is the battle from 1,000 years ago, a battle between two different realms." Meanwhile, Lucario, not far away, also noticed the sudden appearance of the phantom. As if a painful memory had been triggered, its face paled. It continuously concentrated its wave missiles and hurled them at the Pokémon phantoms, as if hoping to stop their pointless war. Light blue wave missiles flew around, slamming into the ground with a terrifying surge of energy, causing the flat surface to cave in. "Lucario, stop. These are just phantoms," Xiaozi, regaining his composure, anxiously called out to Lucario. But Lucario, lost in his memories, ignored Xiaozi's calls and continued firing wave missiles at the surrounding Pokémon phantoms. One of the wave missiles was headed for Lu Feng and Xiaozi's position. If they hadn't reacted quickly and quickly moved out of the range of the wave missile, Lu Feng might have had to call for Ho-Oh to heal his wounds. Lu Feng frowned as he watched Lucario, still venting his anger and still unable to recover. After a moment's thought, he also condensed a pale blue wave missile in his right hand and hurled it fiercely at Lucario. Ash was stunned by this, frozen in place. He hadn't expected Lu Feng to even use a wave missile, leaving Ash bewildered. Lu Feng's wave missile struck Lucario's body. Like a kite with its string cut, Lucario fell heavily to the ground. Bang! Instantly, dust flew, smoke filled the air, and fine stones scattering, shrouding the surroundings in a swirling haze. The shadowy Pokémon around Lu Feng and Ash froze in their movements and began to dissipate into smoke. At that moment, the time flower, held in Lu Feng's hand, seemed to have completed its mission. After presenting this past scene, the flower gradually withered and closed into a bud. A moment later, Lucario recovered from its previous state. It knelt on one knee, using both hands to support itself against the ground. Looking around, it said dejectedly, "Why, Master Yalan, why did you do this?" Lu Feng looked at the bewildered and somewhat bewildered Lucario and said calmly, "Legend has it that Yalan wielded the power of the first world tree to calm the hatred and anger of the land, restoring peace to this ancient land. If you wish to know why Yalan sealed you away, wait with us to ascend the first world tree and let the flower of time bloom there. You will surely learn the truth." The first world tree and the flower of time. Upon hearing this, Lucario fell silent, muttering softly. After a long moment, Lucario regained consciousness and gazed at the first world tree not far away, his gaze gradually firming. Suddenly, Xiaogang's voice reached them, as if their lunch was ready. Lu Feng and Xiaozi gazed at Lucario and invited him. "Lucario, let's go have lunch together." Lucario's eyes trembled slightly, a warm feeling rising in his heart as he silently followed them. During the meal, a small incident occurred. Perhaps the food prepared by the male mother, Xiaogang, was so tempting that it attracted a pot-shaped monster. Lu Feng looked at the pot-shaped monster speechlessly, a very strange expression on his face. If he remembered correctly, this pot-shaped monster should be the same one from the original story. But Xiaozi had just finished his journey in the Kanto region and had not yet begun his journey in the Hoenn region. He was quite puzzled by the fact that this pot-shaped monster had appeared. Thinking back to the plot of the original story, Lu Feng suggested to Xiaogang that he capture the pot-shaped monster in front of him. After lunch, the group continued their journey towards the location of the original tree. After walking for an unknown amount of time, guided by Lucario, they arrived at a canyon. They could clearly see the original tree not far away. By simply crossing this canyon, they would reach their destination. Because the canyon was too narrow for off-road vehicles, Lu Feng and the others had to abandon their plans to drive. They set out on foot, following the canyon's passageway, heading deeper into the depths. "Is this the origin tree?" Xiaoxia gazed at the origin tree before her, her trunk radiating a brilliant green light under the sunlight, and she couldn't help but feel mesmerized. It's truly beautiful. Lu Feng gazed at the origin tree, and suddenly remembered some information about it. The origin tree, though called a tree, wasn't a true tree. It was a crystalline life form that relied on light for energy. It was formed from countless rock layers, forming a tree-like structure, maintaining the ecological stability of the entire world, hence the name. This was like calling a superpowered Lugia the god of the sea. The dream Lu Feng and the others sought was in a symbiotic relationship with the origin tree before them. They continued forward, and just as they were about to reach the origin tree, something strange happened. The entire ground shook violently, as if a small earthquake had struck. What's going on? Is it an earthquake? Xiaogang asked frantically, glancing around. Xiaozi and Xiaoxia supported each other, steadying themselves, and nervously surveyed their surroundings. Lu Feng and Lucario stared intently in a certain direction. Through the wave guide's detection, they could easily sense a terrifying aura approaching their position at a rapid speed. Retreat, Lu Feng hurriedly called out to the others after detecting the aura reaching their feet, leaping to the left. Xiaozi and the others, though somewhat confused by Lu Feng's words, retreated out of trust in him. Rumble. Shortly after they left, the ground suddenly crumbled where they had been, and a dark figure emerged from the sunken ground. Xiaozi and the others looked towards the shadow, and the sunlight illuminated its true form. This sudden black shadow was none other than the rock god pillar, Regirock. Chapter 205 Lu Feng, the MVP of this match should be given to the photographer. Regirock let out a deafening roar towards Lu Feng and the others. The roar was like thunder, spreading in all directions, carrying a piercing force that made their eardrums vibrate violently. What kind of Pokémon is this? Xiaozi looked at the uninvited Regirock with a puzzled expression on his face. Xiaogang stared at the Regirock in front of him with his eyes, and replied to Xiaozi nervously, "This is the legendary rock giant, Regirock." Regirock? It seems so strong. Xiaozi looked at Regirock with burning eyes and couldn't help but sigh. Beside him, Misty noticed Xiaozi's expression and a look of resignation crossed her face. She said grumpily, "Hey, Xiaozi. Now is not the time for that, don't you see it's about to attack us?" Xiaozi froze for a moment, then took a closer look at Regirock's face. Belatedly, he said, "Xiaoxia, now that you mention it, it seems so." Shortly after he finished speaking, the orange H pattern of dots on Regirock's head suddenly flickered, and a powerful wave of energy began to gather. Instantly, a terrifying orange-yellow light, pierced by arcs of electricity and filled with a terrifying aura of destruction, shot directly towards Lu Feng, Xiaozi, and the others. An electromagnetic cannon. Lu Feng paled slightly as he sensed the immense energy contained within the attack. He quickly shouted to Xiaozi and the others, "Get out of the way. It's a railgun." Xiaozi and the other two, upon hearing Lu Feng's warning, quickly dodged to the sides, narrowly avoiding Regirock's attack. The orange-yellow ball of light, like a cannonball, slammed heavily onto the rocks behind them. The next second, a powerful aura of destruction permeated the air, and the massive rock surface exploded with a resounding roar. As they watched, it transformed into a shower of pebbles, stirring up countless clouds of sand. "This is so dangerous," Xiaoxia swallowed, glancing at the rocks behind her. A glimpse of fear crossed her beautiful eyes, a look of dread still in her grasp. Lu Feng glanced at Xiaozi and the others, relieved to see they were safe. He then returned his gaze to Regirock. After a moment's deliberation, Lu Feng tossed his Pokéball, releasing Swampert and Gardevoir. Judging from the aura emanating from this Regirock, it was roughly a semi-champion in strength. It couldn't possibly be one of the three legendary pillars originally created by the Holy Pillar King, Regigigas. It was most likely a few guards Mew had asked Regigigas to create for it. Lu Feng turned to look at Lucario and solemnly said, "Lucario, you lead Ash and the others into the world-beginning tree first. I'll take care of Regirock." Lucario's face was troubled. He glanced at Lu Feng's calm expression, and he hesitated to speak. But after hearing Lu Feng's next words, Lucario nodded directly. "Regirock can't be the only one here at the world's beginning tree. Regis Cheru and Regis are very likely to appear. If we stay here, we'll likely attract them all." Xiaozi and the others also heard Lu Feng's words. After a moment's silence, they said to Lu Feng, "Lu Feng, this place is up to you. Be careful." Lu Feng nodded and began commanding Swampert and Gardevoir to attack Regirock. Swampert, Water Pulse, Gardevoir, Magic Leaf. A vast surge of water energy surged from Swampert, and with a pulsating force, it launched towards Regirock, not far away. Gardevoir extended its arms, gathering grass energy within itself. Countless leaves appeared behind it, like sharp blades, sweeping towards Regirock, sweeping a powerful airflow and sprinting towards him. Regirock sensed the incoming attack. The orange-yellow H pattern on his HUD flashed again, and a powerful burst of light, imbued with a destructive aura, erupted straight out. Destruction beam. Boom. Instantly, the destructive beam collided with a water wave, gaining a slight advantage in the clash of energies, breaking through the barrier of the water wave and continuing its flight towards Swampert. Feng took a deep breath and quickly commanded Swampert, hold. With his command, Swampert didn't hesitate, quickly executing the hold technique. In a flash, the destructive beam descended, slamming heavily into Swampert. Despite the hold technique's resistance, Swampert took little damage. Still, the powerful attack caused Swampert to recoil several steps before finally regaining his composure. At this moment, Gardevoir's magical leaf, with unstoppable momentum, struck Regirock nearby. Under the double damage of the grass-type skill, the rock layer covering Regirock's body was slightly damaged, and a large amount of rocks fell unconsciously. Feng's eyes lit up at this scene, and he had Swampert and Gardevoir continue their previous attacks, harassing Regirock. Under the combined attack of Gardevoir and Swampert, Regirock's stamina rapidly declined, his aura becoming extremely weak, as if he were on the verge of losing his fighting ability. The rock layer covering his body also became slightly tattered and uneven under the bombardment of Gardevoir and Swampert. With a loud bang, Regirock's body flew backwards towards the rock layer behind him, slamming hard into it. The falling rocks buried his body completely. Feng could sense that Regirock seemed to have lost his fighting ability. He was just about to breathe a sigh of relief and head towards the world's beginning tree, hoping to catch up with Ozzy and the others who had just left. But before he could even take a step, Feng's expression suddenly changed, and he quickly turned to look at Regirock's location. Boom! A huge explosion echoed, and Thunderrock, buried in the rock, reappeared before Feng. Regirock, the orange-yellow pattern on Regirock's head gradually dimmed. He roared at Feng, and a powerful surge of energy surged from his body. In an instant, the damaged rock layer on its body began to rapidly repair itself, returning to its original state, without a single sign of damage. Wow, you're really good, ooh. Feng's mouth twitched slightly, and he glanced at the world's beginning tree with a grim expression. Through the wave power detection, Feng could clearly see that the energy that repaired Regirock was transmitted from the world's beginning tree. If the world's beginning tree weren't inhuman, Feng would have reported someone for blatantly cheating. Regirock could stand on the ground, drawing on the Earth's rock energy to slowly repair his damaged body. But Feng hadn't anticipated that within the confines of the world's beginning tree, Regirock could absorb its energy, accelerating the slow repair process. Isn't it like having a health-locking cheat? Feng curled his lips, a bit of a headache. This was also why the four heavenly kings of Kanto, knowing that Mew resided at the world's beginning tree, hadn't come directly to it. While defeating the three pillars guarding the world's beginning tree wouldn't be a challenge for them, they couldn't withstand the world's beginning tree's cheat. Facing pillars that could constantly regenerate health in battle, who could possibly stand up to them? Feng began to think of ways to quell Regirock's hostility. After all, fighting was impossible. Continuing to fight against pillars that lacked martial virtue was a waste of time. A moment later, Feng released his Rotom and addressed it. Rotom, ask Regirock if they can stop fighting. Lotto. I don't understand. Rotom, soaring through the air, glanced at Feng with a bewildered look, but nonetheless conveyed his message to Regirock. Regirock's attack slowly paused, the orange-yellow dot on his HUD flickering. Clearly, Regirock had experienced Feng's strength and felt a slight fear of him. While within the confines of the world's origin tree, it could quickly recover from its injuries, the pain of the battle was unavoidable. Lotto. Regirock, tell us to retreat from the world's origin tree, or it will continue its attack. Receiving Regirock's message, Rotom quickly relayed it to Feng. Feng was silent for a moment, sighing softly, and was about to resume his attack. But before Feng could make a move, a fiery aura emanated from somewhere in his body, shimmering with a dazzling rainbow light. Confused, Feng fumbled about and retrieved the strange object. It's actually the rainbow feather. Feng glanced at it in surprise, a thoughtful expression on his face. Regirock's aura began to calm down after sensing the rainbow feather's presence. The orange-yellow dot on his head shone fiercely, and he growled at Lu Feng. Regirock is asking why you have the rainbow feather, Rodham. Rodham heard Regirock's growl and translated for Lu Feng. Lu Feng glanced at Regirock thoughtfully, then examined the rainbow feather in his hand. A bold guess arose in his mind. Could the Mew that the Hoenn knew be the one that lived at the world's beginning tree? Lu Feng wondered. From the opening scene of the movie, it's revealed that Mew, the legendary Pokémon who inhabits the world's beginning tree, loves to transform into the form of a photographer. If their relationship isn't good, and Mew arbitrarily transforms into Hoenn, does that really mean the photographer has no temper? At this thought, Lu Feng's lips curled up slightly in a smile, his eyes sparkling. He addressed Thunder Rock, who was standing nearby. Regirock, I'm the rainbow hero of Hoenn. I've come to visit Mew. Could you please give me a favor, Regirock? Regirock heard Lu Feng's words, and the orange-yellow dots on his HUD formed a dazzling H pattern, as if he were pondering Lu Feng's words. A moment later, Regirock used his dig move and vanished from Lu Feng's sight. Regirock, let's hurry up and don't stay here too long. Rodham repeated Regirock's words to Lu Feng. Lu Feng breathed a sigh of relief and nodded to Rodham. Then, leading Rodham and Swampert, they headed towards the world's beginning tree. Ho, how generous of you. The MVP award should go to the photographer, Lu Feng muttered as they walked. I don't understand. Rodham said, somewhat bewildered, following closely behind him. Chapter 206, Saving the World's Beginning Tree. Lu Feng, leading Rodham, gradually approached the entrance to the world's beginning tree. He gazed up at the towering tree, lost in thought for a moment. Coming to his senses, Lu Feng suppressed all distracting thoughts and stepped into the passageway of the world's beginning tree. Unbeknownst to Lu Feng, a graceful figure appeared from the spot where he had just fought Regirock, broadcasting the entire battle live. This figure was, of course, Sumo. Initially, Sumo had lost her way after entering the world's beginning tree, shrouded in thick fog. But she hadn't anticipated it. She stumbled upon the tracks of an SUV. Following the tracks, Sumo followed Lu Feng's footsteps and arrived near the world's beginning tree. And by some unexpected coincidence, the footage of Lu Feng's battle with Regirock was broadcast live. Instantly, countless Blue Star trainers, eager to find legendary Pokémon, sprang to the world's beginning tree. Meanwhile, fierce battles erupted in two locations not far from where Lu Feng had just fought. One of the two sides was Sakuki and Regius. Leveraging information from Kajiro and Musashi, Sakuki and the Rockets easily reached the world's beginning tree. However, they chose a different entrance than Lu Feng's, instead choosing a different route. This led to their encounter with Regius, who guarded that entrance. To quickly locate Mew and obtain the necessary experimental samples, Sakuki instructed the Rocket's 4 generals to head directly to the world's beginning tree, while he remained behind to fend off Regius's entanglement. Sakuki was troubled by the fact that Regius was like a piece of sticky candy, impossible to shake off. Although Sakuki easily defeated it, Regius's strength quickly returned, like a tireless defender. During this time, he considered escaping Regius's clutches by capturing him. However, Regius remained completely incapable of combat and easily broke free from the Pokéball, thwarting all of Sakuki's plans. What a pain in the ass, Sakuki sighed softly, his expression darkening as he gazed at Regius, not far away. Seeing Regius continue his attacks, Sakuki was forced to command his Pokémon, engaging in a protracted stalemate. The other location where the battle erupted was, naturally, Ryudo, the 4 heavenly kings of Kanto, and Registede. With Registede blocking their way, Ryudo and the others were unable to ascend the world's beginning tree. Clearly, they faced the same predicament as Sakuki. Within the world's beginning tree's domain, the 3 pillars of rock, steel, and ice seemed to be acting with unstoppable power, leaving them feeling helpless. After a brief discussion, Yulongdu allowed Kona and Shiba to enter the world's beginning tree, while he remained behind to fend off Registeel's obstruction. Registeel, I'm not invading the world's beginning tree, I'm seeking Mew, I hope you can stop this pointless battle. We're not enemies, Yulongdu, watching the relentless attack from Registeel, earnestly explained. Perhaps due to the language barrier, or perhaps because Registeel was furious, Yulongdu's words had no effect. On the contrary, Registeel's attacks intensified after he finished speaking. Seeing this, Yolongdu reluctantly continued to engage Registeel. Lu Feng was unaware of what had happened to Sakuki, Yolongdu, and the others. He was currently leading Rodham through the passages within the world's beginning tree, searching for Satoshi and the others. After an unknown amount of time, Lu Feng finally left the complex corridors within the world's beginning tree. Perhaps due to the aura of the rainbow feather, Lu Feng had avoided any attacks from the world's beginning tree. Just as he was about to reach the heart of the world's beginning tree, a system notification chimed in. Lu Feng's expression stiffened, his lips twitching. Ding. Congratulations to the host for receiving the legendary quest, Save the World's Beginning Tree. Quest deadline, before the world's beginning tree dies. Quest description, due to an unexpected event, the dream, which coexists with the world's beginning tree, has suffered considerable damage, causing it to wither. Please do your utmost to prevent its demise. Quest reward, Dream's Gift, Inheritance of the Power of Waves, plus 5% World Fusion, penalty for failure. The world's beginning tree dies, the balance of the elven world is broken, and the countdown to its destruction begins. As the system notification chimed in, the world's beginning tree swayed violently, a mournful aura permeating the air, and faint cries of grief echoed. Lu Feng froze in place, unable to recover for a moment as the mission unfolded before him. Thanks to the rainbow feather, Lu Feng hadn't encountered any attacks along the way, and he'd forgotten the world's beginning tree's counterattack mechanism. This had prevented him from alerting Xiaozi and the others in time. When Lu Feng finally came to his senses, a look of frustration crossed his eyes, and he muttered to himself in a low voice. Alice. The plot has returned to its original trajectory. Lu Feng patted his head and hurried forward. He saw a large crowd gathered at the heart of the world's beginning tree. There were Kanto Tenokona and Shiba, as well as Team Rocket's 4 generals, and of course Xiaozi and the others. But surprisingly, the 2 previously hostile factions had fallen silent. Their faces were filled with worry. Everyone seemed undecided and restless. Lu Feng shook his head and quickly walked over to Xiaozi's side. He saw Hoenn, lying in his arms, looking sick. He didn't show any surprise. For the world's beginning tree and Mu, their relationship was one of shared prosperity and shared loss. Any mishap for either would inevitably affect the other. At this moment, the crystals within the world's beginning tree had shifted from their normal blue-green color to vibrant red, creating a somewhat unsettling impression. Sensing movement nearby, Xiaozi and the others raised their heads slightly and glanced at Lu Feng, their faces filled with dismay. Lu Feng pondered for a moment, then said to Xiaozi, "Xiaozi, what happened?" Xiaozi and the others glanced angrily at the 4 Team Rocket generals, then said listlessly, "To save us, Mu contained the world's beginning tree's attack and suffered considerable damage. Team Rocket took advantage of this opportunity to attack it, worsening Mu's situation, but no one could have imagined that because of the damage Mu suffered, the entire world's beginning tree would begin to wither." Upon hearing Xiaozi's account, expressions of deep frustration crossed their faces. They had never imagined things would turn out this way. As a major force in the Kanto region, both in the underworld and the underworld, they were naturally aware of the connection between the world's beginning tree and the spirit world, which was why they stopped fighting. After all, the world was about to be destroyed, and further fighting was pointless. Hearing Xiaozi's words, Lu Feng fell silent for a moment. He recalled the relevant plot and carefully observed Mu's injuries, feeling a headache. Due to the secondary damage from Team Rocket, Mu's injuries were constantly worsening, gradually out of control. The situation was even more serious than before. After a brief moment of thought, Lu Feng took a deep breath, as if making a decision. He walked straight to Xiaozi and whispered, "Xiaozi, leave Mu to me." "Nonsense," Mu weakly called out, sensing the wave power within Lu Feng and the aura of the Rainbow Warrior emanating from him. Xiaozi looked up at Lu Feng, seeing the clarity in his eyes. He nodded and handed Mu over. Lu Feng carefully took Hoenn and placed his right hand on her forehead. He said seriously, "Badeo, be with me." As Lu Feng's voice fell, a powerful wave power surged from his body, enveloping Hoenn. A dazzling blue light bloomed once again within the origin tree of this world, on the brink of destruction. Chapter 207, The World's Beginning Tree Revives, and the Popularity of Sheep Grabbing. Time slipped away. After Lu Feng injected his wave power into Hoenn, the formerly destroyed tree of the beginning of the world began to revive. The red crystals within this space began to change color, shifting from a deep crimson to their original bluish green. Everyone watched this scene unfold, their gazes filled with hope as Lu Feng embraced Hoenn and unleashed his wave power. As Lu Feng's wave power spread, the flower of time growing in the heart, as if touched, began to emit a dazzling light, blooming once again before everyone's eyes. The events of the past unfolded before everyone in a virtual image. A figure dressed in the garb of a brave warrior approached the heart of the tree of the beginning of the world and addressed Hoenn with a plea. Hoenn, please lend me your power. Nonsense. Hoenn looked at the person before her with a puzzled expression. The figure in the hero's attire raised his right hand, condensed a powerful wave of power, and sent it into Mew's body, saying firmly, "The wave is with me." After receiving the hero's power, Mew emanated a vast aura, calming the hatred and anger that had once enveloped the land. A moment later, as the virtual image faded, the entire cave returned to its previous state. Is this what happened before? Misty's eyes trembled slightly, and she covered her mouth with her hand, saying absent-mindedly. Ash and Brock felt a lump in their throats, their mouths slightly open, unsure of what to say. Lucario froze in his place, gazing at the place where the hero had vanished, and fell silent. It quickly leaped near the crystal of the remaining glove and said mournfully, "Lord Yalan, so this is the truth from 1,000 years ago?" After sealing Lucario, the brave Yalan journeyed to the world's beginning tree and, at the cost of his own life, allowed Dream to quell the war of the past. Kona lowered his head and spoke in a low voice. Shiba was speechless for a moment, but as he looked at Yalan, who had merged with the crystal, his eyes filled with respect and admiration. Apollo and the others from Team Rocket were also silent for a moment. Although they were members of the Black Organization, they deeply admired Yalan's dedication. Boom! At that moment, a heavy sound echoed, instantly drawing everyone's attention back. They stared at their surroundings in astonishment, puzzled expressions on their faces. The world's beginning tree, which had just been peaceful, was once again on the path of destruction, collapsing continuously. At this moment, everyone's attention shifted to Lu Feng. Lu Feng, who had been continuously wielding the power of the wave guide, now turned incredibly pale, his body staggering, his breath weak, as if he had severely overdrawn his strength. Seeing this, everyone was at a loss, momentarily bewildered. Lu Feng struggled to raise his head, looking towards Lucario's position, and said with a weak voice, "Lucario, I need your help." At this moment, Lu Feng felt a surge of regret. He knew he had been too arrogant. The origin tree was a cesspool. With his current strength, he couldn't possibly awaken its vitality. If he continued on his current path, Lu Feng's best outcome would be the same as Yalan's. To avoid this, Lu Feng decided to sincerely plead for Lucario's help. Upon hearing this, Lucario snapped out of his grief, glanced at Lu Feng, his face pale, then glanced out of the corner of his eye at the crystal that buried Yalan. And a decision was made. The next moment, it swiftly leaped to Lu Feng's side, imitating his movements, raising its right hand and joining him in unleashing its wave power. Under the gaze of everyone, the two distinct wave powers gradually merged and fused, beaming directly towards Dream. Instantly, fueled by the wave power, a powerful energy erupted from Dream's body, spreading towards the world's beginning tree, awakening it from the depths of destruction. Emerald green life energy showered down, and thick black smoke dissipated. The world's beginning tree had finally revived. Observing the changes around him, Lu Feng finally gave up and fell backward. Had Gardevoir not supported him in time, he would have fallen heavily to the ground, sustaining considerable injuries. "Leave this to me now," Lucario thought to himself, catching a glimpse of Lu Feng's fall. Then, Lucario took a deep breath and madly channeled all of his wave power into Dream. Finally, having absorbed most of Lu Feng's wave power and all of Lucario's, Mew finally recovered, soaring through the air in excitement. Watching the rapidly changing scene, everyone couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief, their frowns gradually softening. Apollo, Athena, and the others exchanged glances, clutching the hair they'd just taken from Mew. While Kona and Shiba were still unaware, they fled. Kona and Shiba watched Team Rocket retreat and quickly chased them in their direction. Suddenly, Lucario, having transferred all of his wave power to Mew, collapsed to the ground, leaning against a crystal formed by Alan as his body slowly dissipated. Before Lucario vanished, it read Alan's final words, finally receiving the answer it had been seeking. "Lucario," Ash called out sadly, his gaze fixed on Lucario. Lu Feng shook his head and, with the help of Gardevoir, approached Lucario. He pulled a long stored item from his backpack and sprinkled it directly on Lucario. Instantly, Lucario erupted in dazzling light, enveloped by a divine power. Simultaneously, the world's beginning tree channeled a special wave of power toward Lucario's location, intertwining with the divine energy. When the light completely dissipated, only a brightly colored Pokémon egg remained, emanating a unique wave-like aura. This is truly incredible. Xiaoxia and Xiagang couldn't help but smack their lips in amazement, staring blankly at the scene before them, somewhat speechless. Xiaozi stared at Lu Feng in disbelief, asking curiously, "Lu Feng, how did you do that?" Lu Feng looked down at Xiaozi, clutching his heart, his body trembling slightly as he spoke. "I used Holy Ash. I harnessed the power of the Ho-Oh." He then glanced towards the Pokémon egg, his expression becoming extremely complex. As if sensing Lu Feng's gaze, the Pokémon egg emanated a wave of affectionate power. Lu Feng remained silent, his gaze fixed on Hoenn, his gaze blazing. "Now it's time to get the best deal," Lu Feng thought to himself, a slight smile curling his lips as a sly look crossed his eyes. Chapter 208 Lu Feng, Fantasy. "I didn't expect that you, with your thick eyebrows and big eyes, would have such a bad heart." At this moment, the system notification finally arrived. Ding. "Congratulations to the host for completing the legendary quest, Save the World's Beginning Tree. Receive the gift of Dream, please claim it later at Dream, the inheritance of wave power, and plus 5% world integration, world announcement. Congratulations to player 9527 for completing the legendary quest first. World integration has been significantly increased. Please continue your efforts." Ding. "Congratulations to the host for obtaining the Gigantamax wristband and Rotom bicycle." As the world announcement sounded, the faces of the Blue Star players who had received legendary quests suddenly stiffened. They gazed at the world's beginning tree with melancholy, their expressions filled with despair. I just arrived near the world's beginning tree, and you tell me the quest is instantly completed? Then why am I even here?" A player from the Great Cold Country, who had just arrived at the world's beginning tree from afar, said with a look of grief and indignation. "Brother, cheer up. Even if there are no more legendary quests, aren't there still legendary Pokémon here?" A Fuso player not far away excitedly pointed at the 3 pillars guarding the world tree. The indignant player, stunned by the Fuso player's words, his eyes lit up with a different kind of brilliance. After some discussion, the 2 players led their Pokémon and attacked the 3 pillars, attempting to defeat and capture them through superior numbers. Having secured what they sought, Sakuki led Team Rocket to retreat. Upon seeing that the world tree was safe and sound, the Kanto 4 Heavenly Kings, including Yolongdu, also left its range and pursued Team Rocket in their direction. Otherwise, they would have undoubtedly scoffed at the actions of these 2 Blue Star players. Even they weren't confident they could capture the 3 pillars here. Who gave these 2 players the courage to do such a brave thing? Did they really think they were brave? As expected, after these 2 players attacked, nothing happened. Meanwhile, Lu Feng's lips curled up perfectly, a beaming expression on his face, upon hearing the system notification. With a Gigantamax band now in his possession, he had successfully amassed the mystical powers of Kalos, Alala, and Galar, Mega Evolution, Z moves, and Gigantamax. However, compared to Mega Evolution and Z moves, Gigantamax had more limitations, being usable only within the Galar region. Lu Feng shook his head slightly at this thought. He then shifted his attention to his mind, carefully examining the inheritance information transmitted by the system. This was the Wave Heritage, compiled from the information left by the brave Aram. It contained not only methods for cultivating the power of Wave, but also a secret technique called the Wave Sealing Technique. "Isn't this the technique Aram used to seal Lucario?" Lu Feng muttered to himself after learning about the Wave Sealing Technique. Mew mew. Just then, Dream's voice reached Lu Feng's ears, instantly drawing his attention back. Lu Feng suddenly raised his head and met Dream's gaze, his gaze blazing with passion. Dream curiously circled around Lu Feng, sniffing the Ho-Oh's aura lingering on him, and cheerfully exclaimed, "Mew mew, hero of the Ho-Oh, thank you for your contribution to the world's beginning tree." After saying this, it seemed to recall something, as if making a decision, and suddenly vanished from Lu Feng's sight. When Dream reappeared, it used its supernatural powers to lift an object and handed it directly to Lu Feng. The object was square, engraved with strange inscriptions, and exuded a mysterious aura. Through his wave guiding power, Lu Feng could clearly see that the object Dream was about to hand him contained an immense amount of energy. What surprised Lu Feng was that the object Dream handed him felt strangely familiar, as if he had seen it somewhere before. But for a moment, he suddenly couldn't remember. Lu Feng pondered for a moment, then carefully took the item. He looked up at Mew and asked hesitantly, "Mew, is this for me?" Mew, eyes wide open, nodded at Lu Feng, and said in a pure voice, "Mew Mew, hero of the Phoenix King, consider this stone tablet my thank you gift." Lu Feng's initial joy at Mew's nod was undeniable. He knew that a legendary Pokémon like Mew would give something special. But that didn't last long. After hearing Mew's next words, Lu Feng's expression froze, and his hands, clutching the stone tablet, began to tremble. "Holy crap! Wow, it's actually this," Lu Feng exclaimed in disbelief. Xiaozi and the others, upon hearing Lu Feng's exclamation, looked at him in confusion, their faces etched with bewilderment. "Lu Feng, what's wrong with you?" Xiaogang asked with a hint of concern, his face pale. He had assumed Lu Feng had just overexerted himself and had some kind of physical problem. Lu Feng turned away with a look of despair, waving his hand as if nothing was wrong. "Xiaogang, I'm fine. I just want some quiet time." After saying this, Lu Feng's gaze returned to Hoenn, his expression becoming extremely complex. By this point, he had recognized the slate in his hand. This remarkably ancient slate was one of Arceus' 18 attribute slates. Judging by the energy emanating from it, it must be the legendary Psychic Slate. While Lu Feng knew that the Psychic Slate was a top-tier legendary item in the Pokémon world, granting significant boosts to Pokémon of corresponding attributes, it also had significant side effects. It was extremely easy to provoke the enraged alpaca. Having suffered betrayal from humans for thousands of years, Arceus no longer trusted them. Holding his slate now wouldn't be a surefire way to accept Arceus's hatred. Thinking that Arceus would soon awaken from his slumber, reclaim his slate, and punish his former betrayers, Lu Feng suddenly felt overwhelmed, his body trembling unconsciously. Greek letter sigma, degrees degree. Hoenn, I didn't expect you, with your thick eyebrows and big eyes, to be so evil. You actually plotted against me like this. Ooh, Lu Feng thought to himself, looking a little depressed. Hoenn looked at Lu Feng's constantly changing expression with a very strange look, wondering what was wrong with him. Lu Feng was silent for a while, his face saddened with a hint of resentment that could not be dispelled. He said to Hoenn tremblingly, "Hoenn, can I change it to a different thank you gift? Oh Hoenn? If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels." Chapter 209 Machado, you are truly worthy of me. The colorful black hero. In an instant. As Lu Feng's voice fell, Hoenn shook her head violently and stuffed the magic slate directly into Lu Feng's hand. Lu Feng looked at Hoenn in front of him, glanced at the slate in his hand, sighed slightly, and asked softly, "Hoenn, can I ask how you got this slate?" After hearing Lu Feng's words, Hoenn floated in the air with a thoughtful expression, as if recalling how to get the magic slate. Lu Feng looked at Hoenn's movements, his eyes twitching. "Good guy, looking at your posture, you probably forgot where you found it from." After a long time, Hoenn seemed to remember the slate, and quickly raised his head and said to Lu Feng, "My oh mio, this slate was scattered in the world thousands of years ago before Arceus fell asleep. I found it by accident." Lu Feng frowned slightly, and a puzzled expression appeared on his face. If he remembered correctly, when Arceus slept, only the 5 stone tablets, ground, water, grass, lightning, and dragon, were missing. The remaining tablets, aside from the fairy tablet still in gestation, should still be on Arceus. Did something go wrong? Lu Feng rested his chin on his hand, pondering the matter. Then, Lu Feng solemnly asked Dream, "Can't I just give you a thank you gift?" Dream flew away from Lu Feng's side, providing a practical answer. Seeing Dream's actions, Lu Feng accepted the magical tablet with a sense of melancholy. Seeing Lu Feng and Dream's conversation conclude, Xiaozi and the others hurried over to him, their expressions of confusion etched on their faces. "Lu Feng, what on earth was that stone tablet that caused you to lose your composure?" Lu Feng replied, somewhat angrily, "It's a ticking time bomb, Xiaozi. Xiaogang and Xiaoxia?" Seeing Lu Feng's complicated expression, Xiaozi and the other two seemed to be hesitant to speak, and finally did not ask the doubts in their hearts. Then, after discussing, Ozzy and the others decided to leave the world beginning tree. After all, they still had a mission to accomplish, and they had to go to the Orange Islands to deliver the GS ball to Professor Nikki. After learning about Ozzy and the others' plan, Feng was silent for a long time, told them his own plan, and then parted ways with him. Feng did not leave the world beginning tree, he would stay here for a while. You know, he hasn't fleeced all the wool from Meow yet. How could he leave so easily? Especially since Meow personally gave him a time bomb. After watching Ozzy and the other two leave, Feng came to the top of the world beginning tree and looked for Meow, who was playing there. Feng rubbed his hands together, his eyes gleaming as he looked at Hoenn. He asked sheepishly, Hoenn, do you still need to recruit guardians for the world's origin tree? Hoenn tilted her head to glance at Feng, then shook her head, somewhat bewildered. In Hoenn's opinion, the world's origin tree only needed the protection of the 3 pillars, no other guardians were needed. Seeing Hoenn's expression, Feng didn't show any surprise. Instead, he reasoned and appealed to her, but the 3 pillars have no way to save the world's origin tree from self-destruction. Aren't you worried that what happened today will happen again? Hoenn's face froze, and she lowered her head in frustration, sighing helplessly. Recalling today's events, Hoenn felt a lingering fear. If it weren't for Feng's help, the entire world's origin tree would have been destroyed, and she would have died with it. Thinking of something like this happening in the future, the simple-minded Hoenn couldn't help but get a little anxious, and she immediately changed her words. Mio, the world's origin tree needs more guardians. This only put Hoenn in a dilemma. It didn't know where to find a new guardian, and the new guardian must possess the power of wave guidance. Only then could everything be saved before the world's origin tree was destroyed. Mio, then, can I be your world tree's guardian? Feng smiled faintly and offered his services. To prevent Hoenn from refusing, Feng paused for a moment, then reminded Hoenn, judging from what happened today, you should be aware of my professional capabilities. Greek letter Omega? Mio. Hoenn looked at Feng in disbelief, calling out to him a few times, as if to confirm whether he was hallucinating. Feng stared at Hoenn intensely, their gaze locked. Hoenn was silent for a long moment. She gazed at the rainbow feather tucked into Feng's pocket and asked, somewhat perplexedly, Mew, aren't you the rainbow hero of the Phoenix King? Feng chuckled softly, waved at Hoenn, and replied nonchalantly, the Phoenix King didn't tell me that the rainbow hero couldn't moonlight as other legendary heroes. Hoenn stared intently at Feng, a look of astonishment on her face, as if shocked by his shamelessness. Mew, is this really possible? Recalling Feng's performance today, Hoenn asked hesitantly, a look of interest on her face. Seeing Hoenn wavering, Feng quickly nodded. After a moment's reflection, it finally nodded and said, Mew, then from now on, you are the guardian of the world's beginning tree. As Hoenn's voice fell, the world's beginning tree burst forth with a dazzling light, sinking directly into Feng's body. With this power, Feng's wave power achieved a breakthrough, reaching a new level. Machado, hidden in his shadow, witnessed firsthand how Feng had deceived Mew. His orange-red eyes flickered, and a complex expression crossed his face. If it weren't for Mew's presence, Machado would have confronted Feng. Good fellow. Less than 6 months after becoming the Rainbow Hero, you're already looking for a part-time job. You're truly worthy of being called the colorful Black Hero. Then, Feng opened his tightly closed eyes, felt the changes in his body, and nodded with satisfaction. After a moment of silent contemplation, a sly look crossed Feng's eyes, and he released all his Pokémon, even Machado. He smiled faintly and whispered to Mew, can you give me an advance on the Guardian's salary? Feng spoke, gesturing to the Pokémon present, hoping Mew would help with their training. Mew froze in place, glancing at Feng with a dazed expression, instantly regretting his decision. Damn it, I don't want this Guardian anymore. Can I return it? Mew. Watching this, Machado couldn't help but wipe his sweat off his face, a look of astonishment on his face. Witnessing Mew's plight and recalling the events at Cheyenne King Mountain, he couldn't help but admire Ho-Oh. Lord Ho-Oh is truly knowledgeable. He saw through Feng's true nature at first glance and didn't even give him a chance to speak. Mew is still too young to grasp the situation, Machado thought to himself. Chapter 210 Departure. March 29th, Friday. A week had passed since the events of the world's beginning tree. After paying a painful price, Countless Blue Star players finally realized that the three pillars of the world's beginning tree were beyond their reach. After much reflection, they reluctantly left the world's beginning tree. Standing atop the world's beginning tree, Lu Feng watched them depart, a touch of reluctance still lingering. For the past week, thanks to these players, Lu Feng's monotonous life had been filled with joy. After all, watching these players line up every day to be tormented by the three pillars was truly captivating. The sheer variety of their methods was enough to make Lu Feng chuckle. Then, Lu Feng shook his head, sighed softly, and turned his attention to his own Pokémon. After a week of exploiting Mew, Lu Feng's 9 Pokémon had seen significant improvements. Not only did he learn many of his own transferable skills from Mew, but he also reaped a wealth of unique resources from the World Tree, significantly improving his strength. Swampert's power reached the late Supreme, Gardevoir and Bangela also solidified their positions at the Middle Supreme, and Jengar and Garchomp were just a hair's breadth away from reaching the Middle Supreme. Charizard successfully mastered the Supreme Aura, and breaking through to the Supreme level is imminent. Articuno reached the Supreme Realm, and Eevee increased his number of stands to 5, reaching the level of a quasi-upper Supreme. Even Rotom, a tool pet, reached the early gym level. Even Marshall, who accompanied Lu Feng, benefited significantly from the environment. It's easy to imagine how much this trip to the World Tree boosted Lu Feng's strength. Lu Feng was filled with gratitude for his decision to leave Alola and return to the Kanto region to participate in the World Tree storyline. He knew full well that if he stayed in the Alola region and continued to exploit the remaining 3 Tapu, it would likely take quite some time to reach his current level of strength. However, Lu Feng regretted that due to slot limitations, after capturing Garchomp and Rotom, he had sent Todrikus and Regiaritas back to Professor Oak's laboratory. Consequently, they were unable to participate in the remedial class offered by Mew. Seeing this, Lu Feng had to incorporate his goal of advancing to the rank of researcher and obtaining new slots into his plans. Not long after, seeing that several of his Pokémon, despite Mew's help, had reached a plateau and were unable to further improve, he turned his attention to Machado, his eyes gleaming brightly. Lu Feng understood that once a Pokémon's strength had reached a plateau, further breakthroughs were not easy. Therefore, he focused his attention on Z moves, hoping that they would give his Pokémon more tools to fight against their enemies. However, Lu Feng was completely unimpressed by Alola's awkward dancing, unwilling to pull off something so socially awkward. So, thinking of Machado, who could unleash his own unique Z move, 7-star soul snatching kick, Lu Feng made a decision. He approached Machado with a smile and whispered, "Machado, since we're so familiar with each other, please do me a favor." Machado's orange-red eyes flickered slightly, revealing an extremely complex expression as he sighed at Lu Feng. At that moment, it finally understood. Lu Feng had brought it along this time, leveraging the resources of the dream world to help it improve its strength. So that was his plan. "Machado, as expected of you. You're really good at using someone else's talents to pay tribute to the Buddha." Hearing Machado's words, Lu Feng met its gaze calmly, without a trace of embarrassment, silently awaiting its response. Seeing Lu Feng's demeanor, Machado seriously suspected that Lu Feng had planned everything all along, a grand scheme designed to get him and Mew to train his Pokémon for free. After a long silence, Machado finally agreed. After all, a man who eats from someone else's mouth is always soft-hearted, and a man who takes from someone else is always obligated to give. Having chosen to freeload Mew's resources, he could only accept the consequences of being exploited by Lu Feng. Seeing Machado's agreement, Lu Feng nodded with satisfaction and removed the 4 pure crystals from his backpack. He handed Machado a normal Z, an electric Z, a fire Z, and a psychic Z. He also brought the Pokémon he was still training to Machado, entrusting them to him with hope, hoping his wish would be fulfilled. After all this, Lu Feng picked up the Pokémon egg on the ground and, as usual, infused it with the power of the wave, patiently nurturing it. This Pokémon egg was reborn by Lu Feng after Lucario's disappearance, using Holy Ash and the power of the first World Tree. Now, Mew has entrusted this Pokémon egg to Lu Feng. Mew hopes Lu Feng can help her cultivate a trustworthy guardian of the World Tree, one who could stand up in the face of the first World Tree's self-destruction a week ago. As for the true guardian, Lu Feng, after spending some time with him, Mew has come to understand his true nature and no longer harbors much hope. Time slowly slipped by, and in the blink of an eye, another 5 days had passed. After 5 days, Lu Feng's Pokémon, under Machado's guidance, had finally grasped the basic principles of Z moves. While they couldn't yet perform Z moves independently like Machado, they could already sense the power of nature. Perhaps, with a little more understanding, they would be able to resonate with the Z crystal and unleash the power of Z moves independently. Then, seeing that everything was complete, Lu Feng decided to leave. After thinking for a while, Lu Feng suddenly made a new decision. Under Meng Hoenn's disgusted gaze, he reluctantly left the world-beginning tree and rushed to the nearby Viridian City. It took 2 hours for Lu Feng to return to Viridian City. He first went to the friendship store in Viridian City, showed his identity information, and received the 2 portable Pokeball transfer machines he had ordered. Then he walked to the Viridian City airport and directly booked a flight to Feng City in the Unova region. After waiting for more than an hour, Lu Feng finally boarded the plane to Feng City after going through a series of procedures such as check-in and security. With the roar of the turbine starting, the plane suddenly disappeared over Viridian City. Chapter 211, Dragon Spiral Tower. Legend has it that the dragon god was born and slept there. Early in the morning, the rain had cleared, and the sky was as clear as a rosy blue. With a chime of a clock, Lu Feng's plane finally arrived in Feng City, Unova, after 2 days of flight. Lu Feng peered out the window at the scene outside, a look of wonder crossing his face. Gazing at the bizarre scene, he silently recalled the records of Feng City. Feng City, located on the central peninsula of Unova, is a port city in the south-central region and the commercial and economic center of Unova. Unlike the cities Lu Feng had seen before, Feng City lacked the historical heritage of Yuanzhou City or the natural proximity of Viridian City. Instead, it possessed a heavy sense of technology, a vision of the future. As one of the largest cities in the elven world, Feng City was filled with skyscrapers and high-rise buildings. Vending machines were everywhere, and the streets were bustling with people, creating a scene of extreme bustle and activity. A moment later, when the plane landed at Feng City Airport, Lu Feng, carrying his luggage, walked out. "What a magnificent city," Lu Feng muttered to himself, gazing up at the towering skyscrapers around him, a look of awe on his face. Click, the sound of a camera shutter rang out, and Rodham, who was following Lu Feng, flashed a red light, saving a photo of Lu Feng's view of Feng City. Rodham. Feng City check-in complete. Rodham flew to Lu Feng's side, a slow, mechanical sound echoing. Lu Feng glanced at Rodham calmly and said, "Rodham, bring up the Unova map." Rodham said quickly, and the screen on his body displayed a complete map of the Unova region. Lu Feng scanned it carefully, patiently searching for his destination. After searching for a while, Lu Feng finally found the 2 locations he was looking for, the Dragon Spiral Tower in Snowflake City and Aindorok, the remaining capital of the Earthling Kingdom. Each of these locations sealed a legendary dragon god from the Unova region. Together with the ice dragon Kyurem, who slumbered in the giant cave in Gamoku town, they are known as the 3 dragons of Tao. Lu Feng had come to Unova to seek the approval of one of the true and ideal dragon gods. Considering the upcoming plot involving numerous high legends, Lu Feng had no choice but to resort to this last resort to prevent any unforeseen circumstances. Although Lu Feng knew the whereabouts of many high legends, after much deliberation, he decided to travel to Unova to search for Risharam, the symbol of reality, or Zekrom, the symbol of ideals. After all, from the perspective of the entire elven world, the black and white dragons were the most likely to accept and follow human high legends. "I just don't know if there's a person named N in this world," Lu Feng muttered to himself, gazing deeply into the distance after finding his destination. Due to some discrepancies in his worldview, Lu Feng wasn't sure whether it was Team Plasma's King N or Driro, a descendant of the Earth people, who had appeared in the current world. After a moment's thought, Lu Feng suppressed his distracting thoughts, took out his Rodham bike, and let Rodham enter. He whispered, "Rodham, target the Dragon Spiral Tower in the northwest of Unova." According to Lu Feng's plan, he would first try his luck at the Dragon Spiral Tower, which was closest to him. If he couldn't find the dragon god there, he would head directly to Aindhak. As Lu Feng spoke, the Rodham bike's turbine engine began to rev violently. Lu Feng controlled the joysticks with both hands, directing Rodham to follow the route mapped out on the map, and they set off at full speed. The sun set in the west, and a crimson glow filled the sky. After a day and night of rapid travel on the Rodham bike, Lu Feng had arrived at Snowflake City in the northwest corner of the country from Feng City. Although it was early spring, The snow still lay thickly piled near Snowflake City. The shallows were covered in ice, and many hollows were covered in snow and ice. Due to the weather, Feng had to abandon his plan to ride his Rotom bike instead. He quietly and slowly walked along the still blurred Ross Mountain Road to Snowflake City. After walking for an unknown amount of time, Feng and Rotom gradually approached the city's intersection. Seeing the windmill towering south of Snowflake City, a smile crossed his face. Finally, we've arrived in Snowflake City. Feng exhaled heavily, gazing wearily at the somewhat subdued city before him. He carefully examined the map at the city entrance and began walking towards the Snowflake City Pokémon Center. Instead of heading directly to the Dragon Spiral Tower in the northwest corner of the city, Feng decided to rest at the Pokémon Center first, to relieve the fatigue of the past few days. The next day, the sun had just risen, its warm rays glittering across the windowsill. Feng awoke from a deep sleep. After washing up and having a simple breakfast, he left the Pokémon Center in Snowflake City. The layout of Snowflake City is quite different from that of Hoenn City, Feng observed carefully as he made his way along Route 8 towards Dragon Spiral Tower. Comparing it to Hoenn City, he shook his head slightly. An hour later, Feng appeared before Dragon Spiral Tower. He looked up at the ancient stone tower, his eyes filled with shock. Standing before Dragon Spiral Tower, Feng could easily sense its ancient, ageless, and profound aura. A strong dragon-like aura permeated the air, suddenly instilling a sense of solemnity, majesty, and dignity. Dragon Spiral Tower is the oldest tower in the Unova region. Its history is unknown. The records of its builders and the date of its construction have long since been lost to history. According to the legends of the Unova region, this place is said to be the birthplace and slumber place of the legendary dragon god. After Feng came to his senses, he took a deep breath and walked towards the Dragon Spiral Tower with determination. As he went deeper, he saw the floating bridge in front of the Dragon Spiral Tower. It had reappeared at some point, and there were traces of human passage on it. It seemed that humans had come to this ancient building before him. Looking at the scene in front of him, Feng's face sank, and a bad premonition suddenly emerged in his heart. Suddenly, Feng quickened his pace and walked towards the top of the Dragon Spiral Tower, wanting to confirm his guess. Chapter 212, The Disappearance of Zekrom. Heading to Aindog. Not long after considerable effort, Feng finally escaped the numerous wild dragon-type Pokémon harassing him within the Dragon Spiral Tower and reached the tower's summit. As he entered, a desolate atmosphere greeted him. The tower before him had, at some unknown point, become incredibly dilapidated, its interior gradually crumbling, and all around it lay fallen pillars. It was as if a horrific battle had once erupted here, leaving this legendary slumbering dragon god in its present state. A flicker of regret crossed Feng's deep eyes, and he sighed at the scene before him. Feng then turned to look at Rotom beside him and whispered, "Rotom, help me check these ruins. Are there any dark stones or light stones?" Rotom solemnly gestured to Feng and said earnestly, "Rotom." Feng carefully searched for any trace of either the light stone or the dark stone, hoping to awaken the dragon god slumbering there. Of course, Feng knew that finding the black and white dragon gods wouldn't be easy. Otherwise, the people of Unova knew the legend of the black and white dragons, so why hadn't they been discovered for so long? With this in mind, Feng radiated his wave power, meticulously exploring the ruins of the Dragon Spiral Tower. To Feng's disappointment, the Dragon Spiral Tower seemed to harbor no dragon gods, leaving him with nothing. Undeterred, Feng searched relentlessly. After his persistent search, he finally detected a trace of a strange wave. Following the guidance of the ripples, Feng walked past numerous collapsed stone pillars and quickly headed for a secluded spot. Upon arriving at the uniquely charming spot with a wave of joy, Feng's expression suddenly hardened, his whole body filled with desolation. Before him lay a shabby stone table, permeated with an ancient aura. The ripples Feng had sensed were emanating from this place. The traces left on the table suggested it must have been occupied not long ago, but now it had vanished, leaving the entire table completely bare. "Alice, it seems the dragon god slumbering in the Dragon Spiral Tower has been awakened and taken away," Feng said with a complex expression, a sense of loss. Although Feng had anticipated this when he saw the traces left in front of the ancient tower, the sight of the scene in person inevitably brought a wave of regret. After a moment of silence, Feng, feeling downcast, left Dragon Spiral Tower with Rotom. After descending the tower, Lu Feng didn't leave immediately, but instead went to a nearby residential building. After spending a few lollipops, Lu Feng successfully obtained the information he sought from the boys living nearby. The boys revealed that several months prior, a young man dressed in tundra clothing, carrying a shoulder bag and with distinctly black and white hair, had visited Dragon Spiral Tower. Shortly after the young man entered the tower, the weather near Snowflake City suddenly darkened, and heavy rumbles of thunder echoed, causing some anxiety among the nearby residents. Fortunately, this sudden phenomenon didn't last long, disappearing in an instant. Shortly afterward, several strangers dressed in black, wearing symbols on their fronts, and covering their faces appeared near Dragon Spiral Tower. They barged into the tower, seemingly searching for something. After hearing the boy's story, Lu Feng's eyes flickered slightly, becoming thoughtful. If his guess was correct, the dragon god sleeping in the Dragon Spiral Tower must be the ideal dragon god Zekrom, and the trainer who took Zekrom away must be Riro, a descendant of the Earthlings. Lu Feng only vaguely remembered Riro as a trainer who wanted to restore the kingdom's glory and traveled to find the lost Earthlings. Perhaps it was this ethereal ideal that resonated with Zekrom, earning him his approval. As for the stranger who appeared later, it must be Team Plasma, the evil organization from the Unova region. So this is a plot from the movie. Since it's Zekrom who sleeps in the Dragon Spiral Tower, then it must be Rishiram who sleeps in Indriak. Lu Feng touched his nose, muttering quietly to himself as he pondered for a long moment. After a moment's deliberation, Lu Feng left Snowflake City and headed towards Aindok. Aindok, in the Unova region. Its architectural style is typical of European and American city-states. The former kingdom of the Earth people has declined over time, leaving only the remnants of the Earth Sword Castle. Built upon the wilderness, the city's architecture is dominated by classical tones, surrounded by lush greenery. A river shaped like a sleeping dragon flows nearby, lending the city a vibrant feel. Lu Feng, wrapping his arms around Charizard's neck, gazed down from above, his eyes glinting with joy as he gazed at the castle, which resembled a giant sword embedded in the ground. He knew full well that the white dragon, Rishiram, lay dormant within the nearby castle, awaiting a true hero to awaken it. Charizard, fly towards that castle, Lu Feng excitedly addressed Charizard. Roar! Charizard flapped its wings upon hearing this, swooping down and gliding towards the Earth Sword Castle. A moment later, Charizard slowly descended to the ground, and Lu Feng leaped off its back. I hope my wish comes true, Lu Feng said, gazing at the castle before him and entering with determined steps. Charizard watched Lu Feng's retreating form and followed closely behind, venturing deeper into the castle with him. A few hours later, Lu Feng emerged from the Earth Sword Castle, his expression dazed. After hours of searching, Lu Feng hadn't found the hidden passage. The entire Earth Sword Castle was simply too vast to explore in a few hours. Looking at the situation before him, Lu Feng shook his head slightly, finally admitting a truth: he wasn't God's favorite child. He couldn't easily find the castle's secret passages like Xiaozi could with a single step. In response to this, Lu Feng looked at the darkening sky and had to leave the Sword of the Earth Castle and go to the Pokémon Center in the city to rest. Chapter 213 What is your true purpose? Outside the window, a crescent moon shone, a few stars twinkling faintly. A gentle breeze caressed the mountains and forests, and the city lights swayed softly. The bright moonlight streamed down the ground like flowing water, bringing a gentle touch and making the city seem a little quieter. A chill, characteristic of late spring, swept through the windowsill and silently infiltrated a Pokémon Center dormitory. As if sensing the chill, Lu Feng's face shifted slightly from his sleep, his brow furrowing unconsciously. After an unknown amount of time, the night deepened, and a faint light appeared from the depths of the Earth Sword Castle. With this light, a strange power emanated, spreading across the entire city. Under its influence, the sleeping Lu Feng seemed to be drawn into a mysterious place. He slowly opened his eyes, and a look of astonishment crossed his face as he took in the scene before him. Before him lay a magnificent palace and castle. This was the very same sort of Earth Castle he had visited the previous day. However, this time, the Sword of Earth Castle was even more majestic and imposing than the one he had seen the day before. Countless soldiers appeared within, patrolling the entire fortress. Lu Feng had initially worried about being discovered by the patrols, leading to the inevitable consequences. But to his surprise, the soldiers seemed to ignore him, as if they hadn't noticed him. What's going on? Lu Feng's pupils constricted, his mouth hanging open, bewildered. He was baffled by the soldiers' disregard for him. But from their conversation, Feng gradually began to understand. It seemed as if he had accidentally arrived in the kingdom of the Earth people 1,000 years ago. Perhaps, it should be said, he had accidentally witnessed history. The soldiers' actions, combined with Feng's previous insights from time travel, gave him a sudden understanding. He hadn't traveled through time and space, it was more like some force had subconsciously transported him into a dreamlike realm. At that moment, two massive figures flew out of the castle, carrying an immensely powerful aura and engaging in fierce combat. The aftermath of their battle spread in all directions, plunging the entire city into chaos. Flames shot up into the sky. Lightning and thunder roared. Countless stone buildings crumbled, and countless human Pokémon perished. Like an inevitable upheaval, it instantly engulfed the ancient kingdom. In this horrific battle, the ancient kingdom lost its glory, its entire splendor buried. As if sensing the earth's wailing and the agonized howls of the remaining creatures, the two terrifying figures in the sky abruptly ceased their clash, transforming into two dragonstones, one black and one white, and vanished. White Dragon Reshiram and Black Dragon Zekrom, Feng said, moved, looking up at the two vanished figures. Is this the scene of the end of the former Earth Kingdom? Feng, staring at the scene before him, recalled the descriptions he had read before and fell silent. Legend has it that 1,000 years ago, the Earth Kingdom flourished. Under the rule of an ancient wise king, he harnessed the power of dragon veins and Victini, the star of victory, to create an environment where humans, nature, and Pokémon coexisted in harmony. As time passed, twin princes appeared in the royal castle, one representing ideals, the other choosing reality. Both were recognized as black and white heroes by Reshiram and Zekrom. Disagreeing over their philosophies on governing the kingdom, the two princes clashed, leading to a brutal war. The war ravaged the land, disrupting the dragon veins' energy. Both the black and white dragons were wounded and fell into deep slumber. After the war, the Earth Kingdom, stripped of its energy, became desolate, leaving countless Earth people displaced and the glorious Earth Kingdom crumbling. Reality. What is your reality? Suddenly, just as Feng was silent, a faint, almost male-female voice reached his ears, instantly drawing his attention back. Feng glanced around, as if trying to locate the voice's source, to confirm whether he was hallucinating. But to his dismay, there was nothing around except the scene of the kingdom's decline. Feng shook his head, searching for a way to escape the illusion, to escape this 1,000-year-old fantasy. Reality, what is your reality? At this moment, the same ethereal, melodious voice from before echoed again, echoing intermittently in Feng's ears, penetrating through the obstruction of his eardrums and penetrating directly into his soul. Hearing it again, Feng suddenly raised his head, gazing up at the illusory sky, his face filled with immense excitement. Feng knew full well that this voice must be Reshiram. At this moment, he was being tested by Reshiram. If his answer could satisfy Reshiram, he would become Reshiram's white hero, a symbol of true bravery. With this thought in mind, Feng closed his eyes, silently contemplating the truth within him. In that instant, time seemed to freeze around Feng, and countless images flashed through his mind, like scenes from the past replaying themselves. There were images of him entering the Pokémon world, of him obtaining Pokémon, and even the glorious moment of commanding his Pokémon to victory in the Quartz tournament. And many more, memories of his travels with his Pokémon. Feng gazed at the countless fragments before him, silently wondering, what is my truth? Time flowed by, seemingly eternity, yet fleeting. After an unknown amount of time, perhaps hours, perhaps mere seconds, a flash of inspiration struck Feng, a powerful conviction welling up within him, a sudden realization. He slowly raised his head, a confident smile and a powerful conviction. He gazed toward the sky and solemnly declared, my true desire is to travel and grow with Pokémon, to reach the pinnacle of trainerdom, and become the greatest Pokémon master. As Feng's words fell, a sound reminiscent of a bird's cry and a dragon's roar reached his ears. The sound shattered the illusion before him. At the same time, the same voice echoed again, its tone of anticipation resonating in Feng's heart. There are no shortcuts to ideals. Truth lies in the land of hope. Shortly after the illusion shattered, Feng awoke from his slumber. He quickly walked to the window sill, gazed toward the Earth Sword Castle, and smiled broadly. Chapter 214, The White Hero Symbolizes Reality. The next day, the air was filled with the fragrance of flowers and a gentle breeze. At dawn, Lu Feng exited the Pokémon Center and slowly made his way toward the Earth Sword Castle. 3 hours later, after searching the entire castle, Lu Feng, using the power of the Wave Guide, finally discovered a secret passage leading to the underground caverns. Cautiously, Lu Feng entered the passageway, only to see an immense cavern unfold before him. Within, countless passages crisscrossed, forming a maze-like experience that evoked a tingling sensation. Lu Feng took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and, without choosing a path, stepped forward, guided by his innermost thoughts. The images conveyed by his mind made it crystal clear to him that this was the final test before he met Reshiram. The paths throughout the underground caverns were changeable, and no matter how carefully he chose his path, he would be affected by Reshiram's power and become lost in the passages. Even if one leaped from a height, a mysterious force would still pull one back to the passage above. It's not the path chosen by the person, but the path that chooses the person who advances. As Lu Feng took a step, he could faintly sense the passage beneath his feet shifting, silently changing the direction of the destination. He hurriedly recalled the convictions he had clung to, hoping to use this opportunity to let the sleeping Reshiram see the powerful true power within him. After a long moment, Lu Feng felt a vibration beneath his feet, and suddenly stopped. He silently opened his eyes. He saw the previously chaotic passage split apart, and the path beneath him became incredibly straight, seemingly connecting to a certain direction beneath the earth. Lu Feng stared at the path ahead with piercing eyes, his entire body radiating with energy. Following the passage straight ahead, half an hour later, Lu Feng arrived at the base of the Earth Sword Castle. The entire underground area seemed utterly empty, with nothing but jagged rocks surrounding it. Lu Feng's eyes fixed intently on a faintly glowing white stone not far away, his breathing quickening. This white stone, resting quietly at the base of the Earth Sword Castle, was the light stone that Reshiram had transformed into during his slumber. As if sensing Lu Feng's presence and the true power he displayed, the light stone, long silent, slowly rose from the ground, emitting an intensely fiery aura. The surrounding rock pillars emanated an unknown power, shimmering with a faint blue light, temporarily dispelling the darkness. Gazing at the white dragon stone before him, Lu Feng silently walked toward it, placing his right hand on the light stone and speaking solemnly, "Reshiram, respond to my truth." As Lu Feng's voice fell, a sharp cry echoed throughout the underground space, like the cry of a bird, yet also like the roar of a mighty dragon. Instantly, a powerful energy erupted from the light stone. A blazing fire erupted from the previously pitch-black space beneath the Earth Sword, emitting a dazzling, brilliant light. Amidst this intertwining of light and flame, the light stone underwent a dramatic transformation, transforming into a gigantic dragon-type Pokémon. Lu Feng, braving the scorching heat, stared intently at the figure before him, waiting silently. A moment later, as the surrounding scenery faded, an elegant and proud white dragon appeared before Lu Feng. Its body was covered in pure white feathers, and its massive white wings extended. Its face resembled a white wolf, and its head was covered in long, cloud-like white hair, giving it an air of exceptional elegance, grace, and naturalness. Reshiram raised his neck, adorned with two shimmering metallic rings, and gently lowered his head, gazing at Lu Feng with his pure, bright blue eyes. Out of the corner of his eye, Lu Feng caught a glimpse of the end of its tail, a turbine-like structure encircled by two metal rings. A look of surprise crossed his face. How beautiful, Lu Feng thought silently as he gazed at Reshiram before him. Thank you for the compliment, I understand your truth. I will do my best to help you realize it and achieve your goal. Reshiram gently flapped his white wings, staring directly at Lu Feng, his voice melodious and gentle. Hearing Reshiram's words, Lu Feng's brow furrowed slightly, a baffling expression on his face. Reshiram noticed the change in Lu Feng's expression and explained in an ethereal, melodious voice, "Don't be surprised. We can use telepathy here, communicating through our hearts." Lu Feng nodded slowly, the frown on his face gradually softening. Then, Lu Feng took out his long-treasured master ball and handed it to Reshiram. With a faint smile, he whispered, "Reshiram, please teach me." Reshiram responded with a melodious growl, gently touching the master ball with the claws on his white wings. Instantly, a brilliant red light emanated from the master ball, enveloping Reshiram's body. As Lu Feng watched, Reshiram vanished from his sight. Gazing at the still master ball in his hand, Lu Feng let out a soft breath, a look of joy on his face. After a moment's thought, Lu Feng released Reshiram and Charizard. Lu Feng pointed at Charizard and stared at Reshiram with an inexplicable expression. With a faint smile, he said expectantly, "Reshiram, can you help this child?" Charizard, upon hearing Lu Feng's words, glanced nervously at Reshiram, appearing somewhat uneasy. Reshiram, at this moment, Reshiram sensed the surge of true faith emanating from Lu Feng, but to its dismay, this true faith left it somewhat bewildered. The vision expressed by this powerful true faith was actually to plunder the sheep. It stared at Lu Feng with a complex expression and sighed softly. "As expected of you. The white hero, the symbol of truth, truly is truly true." After a long silence, Reshiram detached a wisp of blue flame from the turbocharger on its tail and handed it to Charizard, who stood still not far away. With the help of this blue flame, Charizard's strength began to increase. Fueled by the legendary flame, Charizard entered the realm of a celestial king. Lu Feng felt a breath emitted by Charizard and nodded with satisfaction. Chapter 215, Drito's Touch? The fateful battle between reality and ideals. As Lu Feng subdued Reshiram, a cold, mechanical notification chime rang out, "Ding, congratulations to the host for subduing Reshiram. World integration plus 5%, world announcement, player 9527 has gained the recognition and following of a high-ranking legend. World integration has significantly increased. Please continue your efforts, Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a Master Ball 1. Hearing the system notification chime, Lu Feng froze for a moment, a look of surprise on his face. Reshiram, noticing the strange look on Lu Feng's face, inquired curiously, "Lu Feng, is something wrong?" Lu Feng shook his head at Reshiram, suppressing his emotions and indicating that nothing was wrong. He hadn't expected the reward for this world announcement to be a Master Ball. He had just used one to subdue Reshiram, and the system had sent him another. So, did he get a Master Ball for free? Lu Feng rested his chin on his hand, pondering. After a moment, Lu Feng dispelled his thoughts, collected Reshiram and Charizard, and quietly left the pitch-black underground cavern. Meanwhile, countless Blue Star players who had seen the world announcement were in shock. The entire Blue Star player forum was flooded with messages, seemingly eager to learn what legendary recognition Lu Feng had received. Unfortunately, Lu Feng hadn't publicly announced his legendary. This left countless trainers feeling as if they had been scratched by a cat. Some trainers from Europe, America, Japan, and South Korea even challenged Lu Feng to contribute his captured legendaries to the development of the Blue Star region. Lu Feng scoffed at the constant stream of private messages, then ignored them. In the Pokémon world, somewhere in a snow-covered region, Madame Yakin, could you please listen to me carefully for once? Drito, dressed in tundra attire, addressed the Earthlings before him with a resounding voice. Madame Yakin, along with several descendants of the Earth people, gazed at Zekrom, who had appeared behind Drito. A look of disbelief crossed their faces, and they nodded slightly. Drito took a deep breath, his eyes filled with longing. He spoke in a grave voice, "Remnants of the Earth, the time has come to reclaim our ties to the Earth. I hope you will return to our homeland with me." As Drito finished speaking, a deep voice echoed in Madame Yakin's ears, penetrating the barrier of their eardrums and penetrating directly into their hearts. "Beyond hope, there are ideals. Ideals lie in the land of hope." Everyone looked up at Zekrom in the sky, knowing full well that the words that had just pierced their hearts were conveyed by the Zekrom before them. After a moment's silence, Madame Yakin exchanged a glance with the others, a look of nostalgia in her eyes. She turned to Drito and nodded deeply. Seeing Madame Yakin's agreement, a knowing smile spread across Drito's weathered face. Zekrom sensed the ideals and convictions emanating from him, flapping his jet-black wings. His massive, conical tail, studded with spikes, gleamed with brilliant blue lightning as he soared into the dark, overcast sky. Suddenly, a flash of blue lightning flashed across the sky, and the dark sky suddenly cleared. It was as if the gloom hanging over the Earth people had been dispelled by the sudden light. Soon after a discussion, Drito and Lady Yakin agreed on a plan. Because the descendants of the Earth people were scattered across the globe, Drito hoped Lady Yakin would help him locate the relevant villages of the Earth people and spread the word. They also agreed that within 2 years, all the Earth people would be relocated back to their homeland and rebuild the former Earth Kingdom. Seeing his goal accomplished, Drito breathed a sigh of relief and, riding on Zekrom's back, headed for the next Earth people village. But before Zekrom could fly very far, it seemed to sense something and suddenly looked up in the direction of the Earth Sword Castle, a look of uncertainty on its face. Drito noticed Zekrum's strangeness, a puzzled look in his eyes. He asked, Zekrum, has something happened? Drito, Reshiram has been awakened. Zekrum pondered for a moment, his bright red eyes flickering slightly, and with a complex expression, he replied to Drito. Reshiram. Drito fell silent briefly upon hearing this, his calm heart surging with turmoil. Has the true hero appeared? As a dark hero symbolizing ideals, Drito naturally understood the fateful conflict between reality and ideals. The fateful battle between reality and ideals had begun slowly the moment he awakened Zekrum. I hope he won't hinder me from restoring the glory of the Earth Kingdom. Drito's face became extremely indifferent, all emotion suppressed, and he muttered to himself. Otherwise, I will never forgive you. The glory of the Earth Kingdom has fallen for too long. It's time for the descendants of the Earth people to take it back. Drito, I will help you achieve your ideals and let Reshiram know that ideals will inevitably triumph over reality. Zekrum, sensing Drito's strong ideals and convictions, spoke to him in a deep voice. Drito nodded, his solemn expression softening slightly. After a moment of silent contemplation, he raised his head and asked Zekrum, Zekrum, can you sense Reshiram's location now? Zekrum closed his eyes and silently sensed, but to his disappointment, Reshiram's presence was fleeting, disappearing as soon as it appeared. A few minutes later, Zekrum opened his eyes, his bright red gaze fixed directly upon Drito. He shook his head gently, and replied in a low voice, Reshiram's presence has vanished. If I wish to find him, I must wait until he reappears. Only then can I trace his presence and locate his exact location. Drito, upon hearing Zekrum's words, wore a look of deep regret and sighed softly. In that case, let's proceed as planned. As for the true hero, I will surely have a fateful battle with him someday. At that moment, in the Unova region's Golem town, within a cave brimming with chilling cold, a colossal creature dormant deep within the giant cave suddenly opened its eyes due to the awakening of Reshiram and Zekrum. It glanced indifferently at the spot where Reshiram and Zekrum had appeared, then sank back into its slumber, seemingly unfazed. But the deafening roars that echoed throughout the cave revealed that it wasn't as peaceful as it appeared. White Dragon, and the Black Dragon. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 216 Arrival at Mire City. April 3rd. Feng left the Pokémon Center in Aindok with regret. He was leaving Unova and heading to the Kalos region to find Professor Blatano, capitalize on the Mega Evolution paper, and improve his researcher rank. During his stay in Aindok, Feng had explored the city, hoping to find the Pokémon left behind by the king, Victini, hailed as the Star of Victory. But to his disappointment, no matter how hard he searched, he couldn't find Victini. After searching fruitlessly, Feng could only attribute it to Victini still slumbering and temporarily abandoned his search. Meanwhile, Reshiram had told Feng that it had sensed the presence of Zekrum and Kyurem. Upon hearing Reshiram's words, Feng's expression suddenly faltered, and he quickly instructed Reshiram to suppress his presence to prevent Kyurem from detecting it. Feng wasn't actually worried about the fateful battle between truth and ideal. With his current strength, he could easily defeat Drito, not to mention crush him. Compared to Drito and Zekrum, Feng was more concerned about the Ice Dragon Kyurem. According to legend, the Ice Dragon Kyurem, the White Dragon Reshiram, and the Black Dragon Zekrum all share a common origin, each split from the body of the strongest dragon god. Reshiram represents the truth of the strongest dragon god, Zekrum symbolizes its ideal, and Kyurem is the body that carries both truth and ideal. As the strongest legendary ice Pokémon, Kyurem longs for truth and ideal to fill its lost body, and holds a deep hatred for the black and white dragons. This might be related to Kyurem's lack of understanding of the purpose of his own existence. After all, without truth and ideals, left with only a cold body, it's truly difficult to understand the meaning of existence. In the game version, with the help of the Gene Pact, Kyurem can devour Reshiram Zekrum, transforming itself into Flame White Kyurem Dark Kyurem. However, in Hoopa's theatrical version, it was able to switch its form at will between Flame White Kyurem and Dark Thunder Kyurem. This made Feng somewhat unsure of its exact situation. Before coming to Unova, Feng had fantasized about gaining Kyurem's approval. But after considering his own strength, Feng could only give up the ideal with a wry smile. With his current strength, Kyurem could only summon a few breaths of dragon's breath. Kyurem's temper wasn't as gentle as Reshiram and Zekrem's. If its sleep was disturbed, it would spit out the coldest wind, freezing everything. Even if you had Reshiram's approval, Lu Feng didn't want to provoke Kyurem at this time. With a white dragon strength, charging in would be a dead end. Kyurem's combination of ice and dragon attributes gave it a significant advantage against dragon legends. Even before the 6th generation, Kyurem was considered the strongest dragon. But after the new version, Lu Feng felt that the title of strongest dragon might be more accurately changed to strongest ice dragon. After all, after the 6th generation, Rayquaza could mega evolve, explosively increasing its base stats and power. Its ability, Delta Airstream, could negate the weakness of flying types. This meant that ice-type damage to Rayquaza was only doubled. Judging from the performance of Mega Black Rayquaza in the movie, it wasn't exactly surpassing Kyurem, but it was at least comparable. Furthermore, the 7th generation also featured a Dragon-type Pokémon officially defined as possessing power surpassing all legendary Pokémon to date, Ultra Necrozma. Note, Ultra Necrozma's stats are Psychic plus Dragon. Meanwhile, in the 8th generation, a poisonous dragon, Ultra Tina, was released, capable of Gigantamaxing, increasing its base stats to 1125. Thinking of this, Lu Feng felt that only the strongest dragon god before the split could be called the strongest dragon. April 6th, Saturday. Lu Feng's plane glided through the sky, leaving a distinct white trail behind, before landing safely in Mire City, Kalos. As soon as he stepped out of the Mire City airport and gazed upon the architecture of Kalos, Lu Feng was struck by a rich artistic atmosphere. Mire City, also known as the City of Light, is a metropolis located in the heart of the Kalos region, situated at the center of the pentagram and the core of the region. Mire City is also the most populous city in the entire Pokémon world, perhaps due to its rich artistic atmosphere. Tourism is a major industry, making it a popular destination for tourists. Lu Feng looked at the city signs near the airport and began searching for Professor Blitano's research institute. After some searching, he finally found the institute. After a brief moment of reflection, he took stock of his current situation and, instead of heading directly to the institute, headed towards the Pokémon Center. After arriving at the Pokémon Center, Lu Feng first contacted Professor Oak in the Kanto region through the Pokémon Center's communicator, hoping to connect him with Professor Blitano through his connections. Professor Oak, this is Lu Feng. I'm in the Kalos region right now, and I need your help. Lu Feng looked at Professor Oak's figure on the communicator and scratched his head sheepishly. So it's Lu Feng. Satoshi and the others already told me that the matter of the first tree of the world was really thanks to you. Professor Oak smiled at Lu Feng after spotting him through the screen. By the way, I still have your Porygon. I wonder when you can come get it. Lu Feng touched his nose and said awkwardly, Professor, I think your Porygon will have to stay with you for a while. I came here today to ask you to contact Professor Blitano for me. I heard he's researching a unique power, and I'd like to study at his institute for a while. Professor Oak's words suddenly dawned on him. After a moment's thought, he nodded to Lu Feng. Seeing Professor Oak's approval, Lu Feng couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief and began preparing for the next day's trip to Dr. Bertano's research institute. Lu Feng's goal in coming to Kalos was to take advantage of Dr. Bertano's research and potentially benefit from Mega Evolution's research, thereby raising his own researcher rank. Therefore, Lu Feng needed to be fully prepared. Chapter 217, Bertano Research Institute. Final preparations for hegemony. The next day, the sun shone brightly, and everything flourished. Lu Feng walked out of the Pokémon Center in Mire City. He first visited a top-notch restaurant near Winter Avenue, where he reluctantly spent 100,000 league coins and enjoyed a leisurely Kalos breakfast. During this time, he received numerous battle invitations, but after seeing that the trainers who offered them were only at the elite level, Lu Feng immediately lost interest. After all, the Pokémon Lu Feng was carrying at the time, even the weakest tool pet, Rotom, was at the gym level. As for the idea of bombing the fish pond, he wasn't some dirty Jutsu champion who loved to compete in the Baby Cup. So, naturally, he declined. At 10:30 a.m., after breakfast, Lu Feng rented a goat mount and leisurely set off for Professor Blitano's Pokémon Research Institute. Lu Feng spent half an hour walking along the north side of the street, constantly taking in the Mire Art Museum, the Show World Hotel, and various cafes along the way, until he arrived at the Pokémon Research Institute on the south side. Gazing at the institute before him, Lu Feng paused for a moment before stepping forward and gently ringing the doorbell. Just then, a young researcher opened the door and, looking at Lu Feng, asked with some confusion, "Hello. What brings you to Dr. Burotano's institute?" Lu Feng replied calmly, "Hello. I'm Lu Feng, and I'm here to visit Dr. Burotano today." The young researcher looked at Lu Feng carefully and said warmly, "Are you Lu Feng? Dr. Burotano still has research to attend to. Please follow me in." Lu Feng nodded and followed the researcher into the institute. The Botano Pokemon Research Institute consists of 3 floors. The walls of the first floor are covered with the murals depicting the Pokemon doll, the Pokemon doll, the Pokemon doll, and Miss Goth's belly tie. 2 indistinct maps in yellow paper are also displayed as decoration. The second floor is similar to the first, with no significant changes. The third floor, unlike the other 2 floors, features murals depicting symbolic birds and lily root dolls, as well as a diagram illustrating the evolution of the vine snake into the green vine snake. Lu Feng followed a researcher from the first floor to the third, examining the murals with curiosity, a thoughtful expression on his face. "Wait here for a moment. I'll go notify the doctor." The researcher led Lu Feng to a reception room on the 3rd floor. After giving Lu Feng some instructions, he left. Lu Feng picked up his water glass and took a sip, carefully observing the symbolic bird mural on the wall, silently waiting for Professor Botano to appear. After an indeterminate amount of time, Lu Feng heard the sound of light footsteps behind him. He turned and looked. A tall, middle-aged man in a white coat over a blue shirt appeared before him. He had a slender figure, a stubbled chin, and flowing hair. Looking at Dr. Botano, Lu Feng marveled. Compared to other male elf doctors, Dr. Botano's looks truly lived up to the title of public lover, truly the most handsome of all elf doctors. "Are you Lu Feng? Dr. Oak has contacted me. I wonder what you're here to learn." Dr. Botano observed Lu Feng carefully for a moment, his voice magnetic. Upon hearing Dr. Botano's words, Lu Feng stared directly into his face and silently replied, "Doctor, while traveling, I unexpectedly acquired a magical item from an elder. Through some research, I've discovered that the resonance between these items and the trainer's emotion seems to trigger Pokémon to break through the boundaries of evolution. Also, I heard from Professor Oak that you seem to be conducting research on this type of power, so I hope you'll allow me to join your research team." Dr. Botano's face lit up with emotion. With some excitement, he grasped Lu Feng's shoulder and asked in a trembling voice, "Lu Feng, can you demonstrate that power you're talking about?" Lu Feng nodded in agreement after hearing Dr. Botano's words. His purpose in coming to his research institute was to take advantage of the Mega Evolution opportunity, so naturally, he wouldn't refuse Dr. Botano's request. After a moment's deliberation, Lu Feng dispatched Charizard and rotated the keystone in his right hand, using the power of the Wave Guide to resonate with Charizard. The next moment, Mega Charizard X reappeared. Dr. Botano stared intently at Mega Charizard X, his face flushing with excitement. It really has appeared. The ancient mystical power of the Kalos region has truly appeared. Dr. Botano hurriedly approached Mega Charizard X, carefully observing the changes it underwent after Mega Evolution, his face a look of fascination. Lu Feng stood still nearby, quietly waiting for the Mega Evolution period to end. After a moment, Lu Feng's spirits began to wane, and he quickly cancelled Charizard's Mega Evolution, returning it to its original form. Dr. Botano, observing this, showed deep regret, but said nothing more. He had some understanding of Mega Evolution from the information left in ancient texts. After a moment's reflection, Dr. Botano agreed to Lu Feng's request, hoping that he could stay at the institute for a while to help study the secrets of Mega Evolution. Lu Feng's lips curled up at the sight of this. He knew he had a chance to ride the wave of Mega Evolution. If he stayed here for a while, he could get his name on the upcoming Mega Evolution paper. This was his purpose for coming here. Although Lu Feng was well aware of the 46 Pokémon currently capable of Mega Evolution and could easily identify the corresponding Mega Evolution stones, why bother writing the paper himself when he could just exploit them? Under Dr. Botano's arrangement, Lu Feng settled into the Pokémon Research Institute and, with the help of the lab's equipment, began the final experiments to make Pokémon dominant. Lu Feng pulled the Radiant Stone from his backpack and, using the equipment and recalling the information provided by the Overlord Meerkat Inspector, extracted the mineral from the Radiant Stone. He waited patiently, watching the progress bar on the instrument. Chapter 218 Overlord Bangula. The upcoming super evolution. 3 days later, Feng walked out of the lab, exhausted. In his hand, he held a brilliantly colored potion. It shone with a dazzling light, exuding a faint ancient aura and a powerful, ultimate power. It took 3 days, and I've finally extracted this potion. Feng gazed at the potion in his hand, his expression filled with anticipation. I hope it works. After a short rest, Feng arrived at the backyard of the research institute and eagerly unleashed his Bangilla. Bangilla glanced around, gave him a puzzled look, and let out a deep growl. Feng smiled at Bangilla, raised the potion in his hand, and gestured to it. Bangilla's eyes widened involuntarily at the sight of the potion in Feng's hand, and the ferocious expression on his face instantly vanished. It could sense that the potion in Feng's hand seemed to contain a powerful force, unlike any it had ever encountered, its aura imbued with an ancient energy. After a moment's reflection, Bangilla growled at Feng with anticipation, as if questioning his purpose in releasing it. Although it already had a suspicion, it still needed confirmation. Feng noticed the nervousness on Bangilla's face and nodded, saying, Bangilla, this is the power extracted from the Radiant Stone. It may help you become a dominant being, but it may not guarantee your success. I wonder if you would like to use this potion. Bangilla fell silent upon hearing this, its eyes reflecting in thought as it remained silent. Feng observed Bangilla's expression, not with anger, but with a look of eager anticipation. A few minutes later, Bangilla suddenly raised its head, staring directly at Feng. With heavy steps, it approached him and roared resolutely. Seeing that Bangilla had made her decision, Feng smiled at her, raised the potion in his hand, and carefully handed it to her. Bangilla stared intently at the test tube in her hand, then without thinking, dropped it into her mouth. Using her sharp teeth, she pierced the tube and swallowed the potion extracted from the brilliant stone. Feng stared at Bangilla nervously, closely observing her body, trying to detect any changes. But to his surprise, Bangilla remained completely calm, without a single ripple. Bangilla, have you noticed any changes in your body? Feng pondered silently for a moment, then raised his head and asked Bangilla. Bangilla shook his head slightly and was about to say something to Feng. Before he could say anything, Bangilla's face suddenly changed, revealing an expression of extreme pain, and he swayed uneasily. Feng's expression darkened as he watched Bangilla's pained expression. He glanced at it with concern. Under Feng's gaze, Bangilla's body began to transform, slowly growing in size. A powerful, ultimate energy emerged from its body, silently transforming it. Is the potion starting to work? Feng frowned, his gaze fixed on Bangilla. Time ticked by, and in the blink of an eye, 2 hours had passed. Bangilla's changes gradually stabilized, and the transformation process was nearing completion. Feng watched Bangilla's transformation, holding his breath, waiting with great anticipation. 10 minutes later, Bangilla opened his tightly closed eyes and roared loudly towards the sky. Instantly, the entire research institute shook violently, and everything swayed under the mighty roar. Bangilla had undergone a tremendous transformation compared to just over 2 hours earlier. Its size more than tripled. Its aura becoming even more ferocious. Its eyes gradually turned red, radiating a fierce aura. A unique aura lingered on its surface, which Feng could sense. This aura was distinct from that of a celestial Pokémon. It was the exclusive energy of a dominant Pokémon, the dominant aura. However, Feng was puzzled by the fact that Bangilla's aura seemed weaker than that of a dominant meerkat, as if it were missing a part. So, did this count as a success? Feng muttered to himself, a puzzled expression on his face. Bangira looked down at Feng, growling with a hint of excitement. It had sensed the changes taking place within itself, sensing a powerful force lurking within it. It seemed that this power, aided by it, allowed it to easily influence the Pokémon around it. Feng was silent for a moment, then quickly walked over to Bangira's side. He used his wave power to probe Bangira's physical changes, hoping to learn more about the situation. After a long moment, Feng shook his head slightly and sighed silently. After examining Bangira's physical changes, Feng had a clear understanding of its current condition. Perhaps due to insufficient reagent power, or perhaps due to Feng's incorrect extraction technique, Bangira's transformation to dominant Pokémon was only halfway complete. Compared to normal dominant Pokémon, Bangira looked more like a half-baked dominant Pokémon. Well, it seems I need to find time to go to the Ulala region again and see if I can find the Radiant Stone to create another reagent for Bangira's complete transformation into dominant Pokémon, Lu Feng stared at Bangira, silently making up his mind. At this moment, Professor Blatano and many researchers from the Research Institute appeared before Lu Feng. They looked at the dominant Bangira with expressions of deep shock, gradually losing their focus. They were all startled by the roar of Bangira upon awakening. Lu Feng, what's going on? Dr. Blatano, regaining his composure, swallowed and pointed at Bangira, asking somewhat bewilderedly. Lu Feng then explained his experiment to Dr. Blatano and apologized to the numerous researchers. He hadn't anticipated the magnitude of Bangira's awakening, which had caught him off guard. After listening to Lu Feng's explanation, Dr. Blatano gave him a deep, meaningful look. Dr. Blatano had learned a great deal about the Alola region's dominant Pokémon during his initial Mega Evolution research. However, as far as he knew, the emergence of dominant Pokémon was mostly genetic or accidental. This artificially created Bangira seemed to be a first. Dr. Blatano then informed Lu Feng of the progress of his Mega Evolution research. Upon hearing that the experimental data had been compiled and all that was left was to write the corresponding paper and await publication to advance his researcher rank, a flicker of joy crossed Lu Feng's deep eyes. Thanks to Lu Feng's help, this world's Mega Evolution had been significantly accelerated compared to its original schedule. However, given the paper's writing and review process, it might take another 3 months for the paper to be published. During this time, Daksha might be able to find a significant number of Mega Evolution stones, accumulating a considerable foundation. Lu Feng couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Chapter 219, The Man Who Attempted to Collect Legends, Crazy Collector Geluda. Elsewhere, just as Lu Feng arrived in the Kalos region, the entire Kanto region was in turmoil. In the Kanto region, at Team Rocket's headquarters, Sakaki gazed at a glass vessel not far away, his deep eyes gleaming with enthusiasm. Although he hadn't successfully captured Mew during the first tree incident, he had recovered a good deal of Mew's shed hair. Using this hair, imbued with Mew's genes, Sakaki attempted to create another Mewtwo to counter the threat posed by the Kanto Alliance. At this point, Project Mewtwo 2.0 was already midway through. If Team Rocket had relied on the remaining experimental data, they could have created a new Mewtwo. However, after witnessing the lingering aura of Mount Shianking and the presence of Mew within the first tree, Sakaki discarded some of his existing genes. Instead of incorporating the genes of the 3 common mythical birds, he sought more powerful genes to integrate into the Mewtwo embryo, creating an even more powerful Mewtwo. He was now agonizing over which Pokemon genes to choose. At this moment, Minori, holding a document, quickly approached Sakaki and addressed him respectfully. "Boss, a collector named Geluda has contacted us. He claims to be offering legendary feathers of the 3 gods, even a feather from Lugia, the god of the sea." Sakaki's expression shifted slightly after hearing Minori's words. He looked at Minori with some surprise and asked, "What does he want?" Sakaki knew that legendary items must be valuable. This collector, Geluda, must be seeking something from Team Rocket. Minori handed over the document, his tone thick with resentment, saying, "He wants us to provide him with a substantial sum of money and some powerful technological weaponry to build a hovercraft." Sakaki remained silent, surveying the investigative materials in his hands. A sudden pause followed. The information contained intelligence gathered by Team Rocket members lurking in the Kanto region through their investigation of Geluda. HMPH. Wanting to use technology to capture legends for his own collection, truly a crazy collector. After a long moment, Sakaki frowned, his deep eyes trembling slightly, and he snorted inexplicably. "Boss, I wonder how we should respond to Geluda." Manaji noticed a change in Sakaki's expression and asked cautiously. Sakaki tapped his right knuckles lightly on the armrest of his chair, lost in thought. When he came to his senses, his eyes gleamed, and he said solemnly, "Agree to his request and have him deliver what we need as soon as possible." Seeing Sakaki's decision, Manaji hesitated, but nodded obediently. Just as she was about to leave, she heard Sakaki's voice again, stopping her in her tracks. "Wait, have someone keep an eye on Geluda's movements. Secretly follow him to the location of the 3 birds and wait for an opportunity to obtain their and Lugia's feathers." Manaji glanced at Sakaki in astonishment, then, realizing what was happening, responded promptly before departing. Watching Manaji's retreating figure, Sakaki sighed softly. For some reason, Sakaki suddenly had a suspicion that Geluda would be defeated. Just in case, he had someone secretly keep an eye on Geluda to ensure a foolproof outcome. As for why he didn't let Team Rocket act on their own, it was because he didn't want to alert the Kanto Alliance. Due to past events, Team Rocket was significantly weakened. They needed to recuperate and lay low, not provoke the Kanto Alliance. As Sakuki's orders spread, a well-equipped squad of Team Rocket's elite soldiers quietly left Team Rocket's base and, under the pretext of transporting weapons, headed for Geluta's location. Meanwhile, on an island not far from the Orange Islands. After receiving Team Rocket's response, Geluta excitedly began preparing his legendary capture plan. As a wealthy collector, Geluta's hobby was collecting rare Pokémon, including shiny Pokémon, protected Pokémon, and mutated Pokémon. As his collection grew, Geluta grew dissatisfied with ordinary Pokémon and set his sights on legendary Pokémon. After extensive research and preparation, and with considerable investment, Geluta learned that the Orange Islands might harbor the most powerful legendary Pokémon, Articuno, Moltres, Zapdos, and even Lugia, the god of the sea. This ignited Geluta's obsession with collecting unique Pokémon into a frenzy. Desperate to capture the 3 legendary birds and Lugia, Geluta began to expend vast sums of Alliance coins, purchasing countless weapons and sophisticated technology to fulfill his dream. Meanwhile, Geluta was willing to collaborate with Team Rocket, hoping to leverage their advanced weapons and equip his hovercraft to enhance its power. Mr. Geluta, we've pinpointed the locations of Articuno, Moltres, and Zapdos. What should we do next? Geluta's assistant, deftly manipulating a laptop, reported their findings. Geluta's eyes blazed as he stared intently at the 3 islands projected on the laptop, pondering for a moment. After a moment, he turned to his assistant and announced, "Let's wait for Team Rocket to deliver the weapons they promised us. Once we've equipped them, we can launch a combat attack on the 3 mythical birds. Also, I remember the Asia Island Legend Festival is coming soon, right?" "Yes, Mr. Geluta. It's in a week," the assistant replied softly, reflecting on the information. "In that case, let's wait until the legendary festival to attack the 3 mythical birds and see if we can use the atmosphere of the legendary festival to lure out Lugia, the god of the sea." A frenzied look crossed Geluta's eyes, his voice trembling slightly. Suddenly, the wind and clouds around the Orange Islands shifted, like the prelude to a storm. Chapter 220, Life is Endless, the business of fleecing the sheep never stops. April 9th. The waters were azure blue, and the sea breeze was fragrant. As Geluta began preparing his plan, Ash, after battling Yi at the Yuzu Gym in the southern cross of the Orange Islands, unexpectedly learned that a special festival was being held on nearby Asia Island. Note, the Southern Cross is the collective name for the 4 gyms in the southern part of the Orange Islands, so called because their locations form a cross. Upon hearing Yi's words, Misty and her friend Jian, whom they had met unexpectedly in the Orange Islands, looked forward to it. After some discussion, Ash and the other 2 decided to temporarily put their upcoming challenge on hold and head to Asia Island for the special festival. Due to the distance between Yuzu Island and Asia Island, Ash wouldn't be able to reach Asia Island quickly with his recently captured Lapras. So, Ash and the others returned to Orange Island, not far from Yuzu Island, hoping to use the island's boat to reach Asia Island for the festival. However, because the Orange Islands were so captivated by the Asia Island celebrations, Ozzy and his companions were unable to secure ferry tickets. Finally, as they were about to leave, a disappointed Asia Islander named May appeared. With May's help, the 3 of them finally boarded the ferry and headed towards Asia Island. Meanwhile, Ozzy, in her joy, seemed to recall something and hesitantly asked Ozzy, I think Lu Feng once told us to text him when we arrive at Asia Island. Is that true? Ozzy scratched his head, trying to recall Ozzy's words. An uncertain expression crossed his face, and he said sheepishly, I think so. Cyrillic letter deck. Ozzy, who is the Lu Feng you're talking about? Jian, who had overheard their conversation, glanced at them with a puzzled expression and couldn't help but ask. Lu Feng is a friend of ours, a very powerful trainer, Ash said, looking up at Jian with a touch of nostalgia. Jian nodded silently at Ash's words, then took out his sketch pad and began carefully observing and sketching the long-winged gulls flying over the sea. May, at the helm, overheard the 3 people's conversation and recalled the quartz tournament she had recently witnessed. Looking at Ash and Misty with great interest, she softly asked, Ash, Misty, the Mr. Lu Feng you're talking about must be the champion of this quartz tournament, right? Ash and Misty were filled with surprise and asked, somewhat bewilderedly, May, You know Lu Feng too, Mei, noticing the surprise on Ash and the others' faces, said a little sheepishly, I happened to follow the Kanto region competition, and his Eevee really impressed me. After hearing Mei's explanation, Ash and Misty suddenly understood. Oh, another woman captivated by Eevee's adorable looks. Immediately, Ozzy took out his communicator and began contacting Lu Feng. Kalos region, Mire City, Blatano Pokemon Research Institute. During his days at the institute, Lu Feng had shifted his focus to the life energy that influences mega evolution. He hoped to discover the secrets of life energy, use this knowledge to study the natural forces required for Z moves, and teach his Pokemon to independently wield the power. Lu Feng had just finished a day of research and returned to his dormitory at the institute, preparing to rest. Suddenly, the communicator he had placed on his desk vibrated rhythmically, emitting a series of crisp rings. A puzzled expression crossed Lu Feng's face. Who could be calling me at this hour? Lu Feng muttered inwardly. A few seconds after the beeping sounded, Lu Feng picked up the communicator from the desk. Seeing the note on it, he instantly perked up. He quickly pressed the answer button, asking impatiently, Ozzy, why are you calling me so late? Have you already reached Asia Island? Once, when parting with Ozzy and the others at the world's beginning tree, Lu Feng had overheard Ozzy and the others' plans and reminded them to call him when they arrived at Asia Island. Lu Feng had always remembered that when Ozzy and the others were heading to the Orange Islands, a catastrophic event would occur, sweeping across the Pokemon world. Given the system's nature, such an event would inevitably trigger a corresponding legendary quest. Furthermore, if he could help the powerful Lugia, known as the God of the Sea, during this event, he would surely be able to successfully PY it. Perhaps he could even take advantage of this opportunity to fleece Lugia and the three mythical birds. At the thought, Lu Feng's body trembled uncontrollably. Life goes on, and the quest for wealth and power never ceases. On the other end of the communicator, Ozzy heard the excitement and trembling in Lu Feng's voice and said, somewhat curiously, Lu Feng, Aksha and I are on our way to Asia Island. Is there anything you'd like us to do for you? Lu Feng paused for a moment, recalling the story in his mind, and casually said, nothing. I just wanted to ask if there's a festival going on Asia Island. Ozzy excitedly replied in the affirmative, then began to chat with Lu Feng non-stop. Having obtained the information he needed, Lu Feng hurriedly ended the call with Ozzy and, gazing out the window at the hazy moonlight, a decision suddenly came to him. He knew that if he wanted to catch up with the Asia Island incident, he had to return to the Kanto region and head for the Orange Islands. With this plan in mind, Lu Feng first called Dr. Bertano to inform him of his departure. Dr. Bertano expressed deep regret upon hearing this, but also expressed understanding for Lu Feng's departure. After all, the entire super evolution research project was nearing completion, with only some paper writing remaining. Lu Feng's departure wouldn't significantly impact the paper's publication. After notifying Dr. Bertano, Lu Feng packed his bags and headed to the Mire City airport overnight, booking the next flight back to Kanto. Chapter 221 Capture Plan. The Imprisoned God of Fire. Late at night, just as Ozzy and his companions boarded the ship and headed towards Asia Island, an extremely large hovercraft appeared in the sky above the northern part of the Orange Islands, not far from the Kanto region. It stirred up a strong air current, cutting through the surrounding clouds and flying towards Asia Island at lightning speed. Geluda sat at the hovercraft's control console, gazing at his masterpiece with a dazed look of immense satisfaction. This hovercraft was a special craft Geluda had spent a great deal of money and effort to build, specifically to fulfill his plan of capturing the three mythical birds and Lugia. At this moment, he was controlling the hovercraft towards the three islands of ice, fire, and thunder near Asia Island, about to begin his long-cherished plan. The gods who inhabit the three islands of ice, fire, and thunder are sacred and inviolable. Humans who attempt to tamper with their power will inevitably incur their wrath, leading to the destruction of the entire world. The sea god, dwelling beneath the deep sea, will stir up 1,000 waves and storms to stop the god's actions, but this will still not quell the wrath. Only when a superior controller emerges, retrieves the three special treasures, and plays an ancient melody, can the wrath of the gods be appeased and the world be saved. Within the spaceship, Geluda gazed at the message on the ancient stone tablet projected by the virtual image, his eyes filled with immense excitement and fascination. This stone tablet was purchased by Geluda from a collector at great expense. It was by deciphering the message on the stone tablet that Jaluta was able to determine the location of the three mythical birds and Lugia. Thus, he embarked on this ambitious plan to capture the legend. Tisk, I hope the treasure I'll obtain on this trip isn't the god of ice, the god of thunder, or even the god of fire, but the legendary god of the sea, Jaluta muttered softly as he scanned the information on the slate. Not long after, Jaluta's hovercraft arrived in the waters surrounding the three islands of ice, fire, and thunder. It quietly stopped in the clouds, waiting for the three island gods to fall into deep sleep. Mr. Jaluta, we've arrived near the three islands of ice, fire, and thunder. The energy emanating from them is gradually fading. Should we begin our operation? At this moment, an assistant's voice rang out from the console beside Jaluta, asking for his next plan. Jaluta paused in thought before calmly saying, "Don't rush. Let's wait a little longer to confirm that the three gods of ice, fire, and thunder have fallen asleep before we begin our capture plan." Although Jaluta seemed a bit mad, attempting to collect the gods of the Orange Islands, he remained calm. From the information revealed within the ancient stone tablet, he knew full well that the power of the three gods of ice, fire, and thunder was far beyond the reach of ordinary beings like Articuno, Moltres, and Zapdos. They were each granted the title of deity by nature, possessing a specific divine function and possessing terrifying power capable of devastating destruction. However, due to their divine functions, the gods of the three islands of ice, fire, and thunder were tasked with maintaining the stability of the ocean currents around Asia Island and assisting the sea god Lugia in stabilizing the world's currents. This was to prevent the currents around the Orange Islands from being disrupted, which would have a ripple effect, affecting the natural balance of the entire elven world and bringing inevitable, severe consequences such as climate disruption and frequent disasters. Precisely to maintain the stability of the ocean currents, the gods of ice, fire, and thunder would enter a dormant state for a period of time to recover their strength. This period coincided with the Asia Island Festival. During this period, the power of the three gods of ice, fire, and thunder would decline to its lowest point, never again possessing the terrifying might they possessed when they held their divine functions. Knowing this information, Jaluta set his sights on them, hoping to exploit this period of weakness to acquire the ice, fire, and thunder gods for his own collection. Otherwise, given their usual strength, even if Jaluta considered his technological weaponry formidable, he wouldn't dare to touch their tiger whiskers. The next day, as the sun gradually set and the Asia Island Festival approached, the energy fluctuations on the ice, fire, and thunder islands dropped to a historic low. Jaluta gazed at the virtual display before him, took a deep breath, and excitedly said to his assistant, "The ice, fire, and thunder gods have begun to slumber. Prepare to begin the capture plan." "Yes, Mr. Jaluta," the assistant said respectfully, looking at Jaluta respectfully and asking him about the battle plan. "Mr. Jaluta, which island should we begin our attack from?" Jaluta glanced at the chess piece floating in the air and paused in thought. After a moment, he suddenly raised his head and said to his assistant, "Since the Asia Island celebration is approaching, let's start with Fire Island. Let this magnificent flame become my first collection at this celebration." Following Jaluta's instructions, the assistant piloted the hovercraft over Fire Island, opened the hatch, and began dropping ice bombs on it. Jaluta took a sip from his glass, his gaze fixed on the virtual screen before him, enjoying the moment with immense pleasure. The scene on the screen was exactly as he had anticipated. Boom! Boom! As the ice bombs fell and exploded, a howling, icy wind swept across Fire Island, sweeping across it in a chilling cold. The dormant volcano was covered in ice and snow. In an instant, without warning, Fire Island transformed into Ice Island. Faced with this sudden change, the recently dormant fire god, Moltres, suddenly opened its eyes, awakening from its slumber. With an angry cry, it flew out from the frozen volcano. Jaluta's smile widened upon seeing the fire god appear, knowing that everything was proceeding according to his plan. The newly awakened Moltres flapped its wings and soared high into the sky. Its eyes blazed with unspeakable fury as it gazed upon its altered habitat, its body suddenly ablaze with an incomparably blazing flame. From its long, brown beak, it unleashed a spiral of flames across the island's snow-covered landscape. The searing heat of the flames melted the ice and snow. As expected of the legendary fire god, even while maintaining the stability of ocean currents with one hand and suppressing the turbulent energy within with the other, he remained so powerful, Jaluta exclaimed in awe, gazing at Moltres on the screen. "Continue to hurl ice bombs at the fire god," Then deploy the binding ring, Geluta calmly addressed his assistant, beginning the next step of his plan. The assistant nodded emphatically and, following his instructions, began preparing. A barrage of chilling ice bombs pelted Molter's, catching it off guard and directly hitting it. A pained expression crossed Molter's face. Already weakened from maintaining the ocean currents, it was now under attack, weakening even further. But the fire god's pride wouldn't yield, nor did it attempt to flee its territory. Instead, it flapped its wings and flew towards the hovercraft, its long beak emitting swirling flames that formed a large character, sweeping forward with a terrifying energy attack. The character exploded in flames. Geluta watched the scene with fascination, signaling his assistant to activate the defense system, blocking the attack and deploying the binding ring. A special arc of energy shone from the ring of confinement, enveloping Molter's. The intense current temporarily deprived Molter's of its ability to resist, forcing it to be pulled back by the hovercraft's recovery system. Haha, I finally got my first collectible, Geluta said, shaking his wine glass lightly, a strange smile playing on his lips. Then, the massive hovercraft slowly flew towards the other two islands. With Molter's disappearance, the fragile balance of Asia Island was shattered, and the ocean currents gradually erupted. The waves surged on the sea, the wind swept fiercely, and the sky was suddenly shrouded in countless dark clouds, as if prelude to a storm. Chapter 222, Logia's Birth. Prelude begins. The night was hazy, and the sea breeze blew. The waves surged, pounding against the boat, rocking it relentlessly. Xiaozi had just finished his call with Feng. Bewildered, he put down his communicator and slowly walked back toward the cabin. Suddenly, Xiaozi caught a glimpse of Pikachu standing on the deck. Pikachu tilted his head, gazing at the distant, dark clouded sky, his expression grave. Xiaozi noticed the strange look on Pikachu's face and asked, puzzled, Pikachu, did you discover something? Pikachu didn't turn around, his eyes fixed on the horizon. The red bladders on his cheeks arced with light as he responded with a worried tone. As they approached Asia Island, Pikachu sensed an oppressive atmosphere in the surrounding waters, as if the world had suddenly fallen silent. 3 powerful auras gradually faded, affecting the weather across the entire sea. Suddenly, as if by some unknown accident, one of the auras simply vanished. In an instant, the dark clouds in the sky grew thicker, with blue arcs of electricity flashing from time to time, dancing with golden thunder and lightning, making the dark environment seem a little eerie. Raindrops began to fall, like beads hitting the deck of the ship, beating out unusual musical notes. Xiaozi looked out at the sea in the distance, watching the huge waves that were beginning to rise and the howling sea breeze around them. He quickly ran to Pikachu, picked it up, and ran towards the cabin. Miss May, do you know what's going on? Xiaoxia, startled by the sudden change in the weather, suddenly felt a sense of unease in her heart, and asked Xiaomi with some fear. Xiaomi stared at the sea in the distance with a serious look, and said with an extremely serious expression, it looks like a storm is coming. Storm? Xiaozi murmured for a while, nodded in realization, and asked Pikachu beside him, Pikachu, have you sensed the breath of this storm? Pikachu shook his head slightly, jumped to the porthole, looked around silently, and shouted listlessly, Pika, but why is there a storm? I remember I just saw the weather forecast. It should be sunny and windy during this period. Xiaojian, who was sitting at the dining table sorting out his picture album, suddenly raised his doubts and said with a frown. Xiaomi was not angry when she saw Xiaojian's question. She lowered her eyes and looked at the surging waves outside the porthole in the fierce storm, and explained to everyone seriously, the weather on the sea is so unpredictable. No one can tell what kind of weather we will encounter in the next moment. Even the weather forecast may be inaccurate, and Xiaozi and the other two nodded at her after hearing her words, but after hearing her sudden interruption, they suddenly became a little impatient and looked at her in confusion. As if sensing the depressing and dull atmosphere, as well as the restless mood of everyone scratching their heads, Xiaomi's gem-like eyes showed ripples, and she continued softly, also, these few days are the celebration days of Asia Island. The gods who live near the entire sea area and balance the ocean currents and atmosphere may fall into deep sleep, causing unpredictable changes in the weather in the surrounding sea areas. At this time, we need an excellent trainer to go to the 3 islands of ice, fire and thunder near Asia Island and get 3 special treasures to stabilize the weather in the sea area. Xiaozi and the others looked at each other with incredible expressions, and said in disbelief. They live near the sea, The gods, and there are 3 special treasures. Seeing the bewildered expressions on Zaya Ozzy and the other two's faces, Zaya Omi smiled beautifully and leisurely introduced them. Legend has it that within the Orange Islands reside the god of ice, the god of thunder, and the god of fire. They balance the weather in the sea, preventing sudden changes from significantly impacting the Orange Islands and causing natural disasters and terrestrial changes throughout the world. When the 3 gods of ice, fire, and thunder are angered by humans, the world will be destroyed. Huh? I didn't expect such a legend to exist in the Orange Islands. The gods who inhabit the Orange Islands must be the most powerful gods in the world. Zaya Ojian sighed, his expression awestruck. Ash and Misty, hearing Jian's words, recalled their encounters with Mew and Mew, and couldn't help but smile. Just as they were about to correct Jian, Mei shook her head and said solemnly, Mr. Jian, that's not true. Above the 3 gods of ice, fire, and thunder, there exists a sea god. He is the most powerful god of the Orange Islands. Everyone was puzzled by Mei's words, not quite understanding the sea god she was talking about. Mei, with a reverent expression, continued to explain to Ash and the others, it is said that Lugia, the sea god, slumbers in the deep sea. He will appear after the controller retrieves the 3 treasures left on the 3 islands of ice, fire, and thunder. He will then appear after the festival Saint plays the Lugia song at the Asia Island Temple, calming the wrath of the gods and restoring everything to its original state. Hiss, Jian, Ash, and the others gasped in shock at Mei's description. They hadn't imagined the sea god would be so powerful, capable of calming the enraged 3 gods and preventing the destruction of the world. Time slipped silently, the torrential rain outside the porthole raging, the wind roaring, and the sea raging. After 3 days, the group finally arrived at their destination, Asia Island. Upon their arrival, Ash, just like in the original story, was greeted with a welcome kiss by the celebration's saint, Flora. Then, presiding elders led him to hall on the island, where a spectacular party began. Then, just like in the original story, Pikachu, with an uneasy expression on his face, grabbed Ash's hat and urged him to set off to the 3 islands of ice, fire, and thunder to retrieve 3 special treasures to restore the weather around Asia Island. Meanwhile, Feng, who had just arrived in the Kanto region by plane, looked up at the rapidly changing weather and immediately realized that the events of Asia Island had begun. Lugia's explosion. Feng lowered his eyes and said in a low voice, "Has it started yet?" A moment later, when Feng came to his senses, he quickly took out his Garcump and directed it towards Asia Island. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 223 Legendary Mission. The God of Thunder Falls. Just as Feng was heading for Asia Island, an unusual shift in deep ocean currents set off a chain reaction that dramatically altered the world's climate. Frost and snow became frequent, torrential rain fell without warning, violent hurricanes swept across the sea, and blue lightning roared across the dark sky. Numerous wild Pokémon, sensing the shifting world, spontaneously began to move towards Asia Island, hoping to reach the source of the disaster and contribute their own contributions to the world they inhabit. Countless humans anxiously watched the sky for the changes, using various methods to monitor the changes in their respective regions, their expressions growing increasingly tense. Suddenly, a cold, mechanical sound echoed, and all the humans on the Blue Star continent froze for a moment, their faces filled with horror and despair. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining the legendary mission, Save the 3 Divine Birds, mission deadline, before the destruction of the Orange Islands. Mission description: in order to enrich his collection, an ambitious collector set his sights on the gods of the Orange Islands. With his continuous efforts, the god of fire, Molters, has fallen into his hands. Because of the disappearance of the god of fire, the balance in nature has been broken, and the world has fallen into violent turmoil. Mission reward: World Fusion Degree plus 5%, Friendship of the Lugia Clan, Legendary Props 4, Failure Penalty, none. After hearing the prompt sound that suddenly rang in their ears, all the Blue Star players, after a brief loss of consciousness, began to run to the forum, constantly posting various posts, hoping to calm themselves down in this way. Oh my god, what's going on? I'm in the Orange Islands. How come the world is about to be destroyed when I woke up? If I knew who that ambitious collector is, I would definitely knock his head off. Just kidding, I finally got a legendary quest. System boss, can I not take this quest? Please restore the world to its original state. Is there any powerful boss in the Orange Islands? What's going on now? This is too scary. Ahem, the world is about to be destroyed. Is there any lady who wants to fulfill a request of my friend? He has been solo for more than 20 years, the person above. You are not right. Actually, my friend wants it too. He recently learned a word one night stand. Is there any lady who can come and tell him the meaning of this word in person? Feng glanced at the message on the forum indifferently, shook his head slightly, and let Garkamp increase his speed again. After hearing the system notification, Feng expressed no emotion, even feeling a bit like laughing. He didn't express much surprise. After an unknown amount of time, the weather became increasingly extreme. Countless ocean waters surged into the sky, driven by a powerful hurricane, forming a series of water spouts, plunging the waters near the Orange Islands into a depressing atmosphere. Feng embraced Garkamp, gazing solemnly at the surroundings, and then fell silent. After a moment's silence, Feng took a deep breath and said to Garkamp, "Garkamp, speed up." Garkamp roared loudly, realizing the urgency of the situation. He exerted all his strength, flying at the speed of sound. In an instant, a long trail of air, like a sharp blade of air, slashed through the water spouts, blocking its path, and flew straight towards Asia Island. Meanwhile, after enduring a series of tidal waves, Ash finally reached Fire Island and successfully retrieved the treasure enshrined in the Fire Island temple. Just as he was about to leave, Flora and the others, aboard May's multi-purpose boat, arrived directly before him. Before they could reprimand Ash, Zapdos, originally from Lightning Island, descended upon Fire Island with lightning speed. Standing atop the temple, Zapdos unleashed a stream of blue electricity. Instantly, the entire Fire Island landscape underwent a dramatic transformation, resembling that of Lightning Island. Pikachu, standing on all fours on the multi-purpose boat, unleashed an electric attack, attempting to attract Zapdos's attention and engage him in conversation. Pikachu hoped to persuade Zapdos to abandon its plan to invade Moltres Island and return to its own. Zapdos glanced at Pikachu with disdain, then let out a sharp hiss and unleashed a powerful electric shock. Pikachu retaliated. Instantly, golden lightning collided with pale blue arcs, unleashing a powerful surge of energy. A minute later, Pikachu was sent flying backward, tumbling backward. "Pikachu, are you okay?" Ash, filled with concern, ran to Pikachu's side and carefully lifted the fallen Pikachu. Pikachu shook his head at Ash, waving his hands at Zapdos and continuing his words of comfort. The arrogant Zapdos, hearing this, looked mockingly in his eyes. Just as he was about to attack Pikachu again, he saw the electric field he had created dissipate, and countless electric currents converged into the dark cloud-covered sky. "What the hell is going on?" Zyuojian muttered, his eyes vacant as he stared at the scene before him. The others shook their heads slightly, a deep sense of unease welling up within them, as if shrouded in a haze. Zapdos, with a furious expression, let out a shrill cry. It flew towards the dark cloud, flapping its orange-yellow wings. Light blue arcs of electricity shone from its needle-like black feathers and spike-like orange feathers. The next moment, a powerful burst of electrical energy erupted from its body, flashing with dazzling lightning as it attacked the dark cloud. Discharge. Bang, bang. With the sound of a heavy lightning strike, the dark cloud covering Zyuoji and the others suddenly vanished. An immensely large hovercraft, with a powerful impact, appeared before them, leaving them somewhat bewildered. As they watched, the lower section of the hovercraft suddenly opened, and several iron rings, gleaming with magnetism and electricity, descended, rapidly flying towards Zapdos's position. With its original strength reduced to a mere tenth of its former self, Zapdos was completely defenseless against the incoming binding rings. It could only repeatedly use its 100,000-volt attack to knock down the surrounding rings. Before long, the exhausted Zapdos was struck by the binding rings. Encircled by them, Zapdos let out a piercing cry, instantly losing its ability to fight. It could only allow itself to be bound by the rings as it rapidly moved towards the hovercraft. Meanwhile, Satoshi and the others were caught by Zapdos and, likewise, caught on the binding rings, inevitably flew towards Jilroda's ship. At this moment, the Orange Islands seemed to have entered their most critical moment. Chapter 224, the ice god who could not escape the poisonous hand, the unknown existence about to awaken in the deep sea. As time passed, Satoshi and the others caught in the Zapdos attack gradually regained consciousness. "Where is this?" Satoshi slowly opened his eyes, mumbling unconsciously as he felt his body being restrained. Once fully awake, he looked at the cage that had trapped them and pounded on it with both hands. Satoshi's pounding caused a creaking sound, awakening the unconscious Furula, Misty, and the others. They struggled to turn, their faces etched with pain. "Is everyone okay?" Satoshi asked, hearing Misty and Furula's soft cries. Misty and Furula, after hearing Satoshi's words, suppressed the discomfort of the cramped space and silently replied, "We're fine. It's just that being trapped in this cylindrical cage is a little uncomfortable." At this moment, Zyujian instinctively glanced around. Seeing something, his face trembled, a look of deep horror forming. "Zyujian, look around quickly," Zyujian stuttered, as if he had seen something incredible. After hearing Zyujian's words, everyone looked towards the surrounding environment. The next second, their faces showed the same expression as Zyujian, and their eyes were filled with shock. On both sides of them, Moltres and Zapdos were tightly imprisoned in a cage made of rotating iron rings in the same way. Under the influence of the electric current permeating the cage, Moltres and Zapdos lost all ability to resist. They closed their eyes like stone statues and stayed quietly in the confinement ring. In an instant, the whole space became silent, and everyone fell into silence. "I don't know how much time has passed." Misty awoke from her trance and, somewhat bewildered, said, "This is Moltres, the missing Moltres from Fire Island, and the recently captured Zapdos. What the hell is going on? Why are they all here, and bound like this?" The others remained silent upon hearing Misty's words. Instead, their mouths dropped open, a look of stunned confusion. Misty's confusion echoed theirs. Suddenly, a crackling sound was heard from the massive iron pillar not far in front of them, as if some mechanism were being activated. A moment later, the massive pillar rapidly retracted, and Jaluta, seated in a chair atop the pillar, controlling the spaceship, appeared before Satoshi and the others. "You are the first group to trespass on my spaceship without my invitation," Jaluta said with a troubled expression, looking at Satoshi and the others in front of him. "What should I do with you, you say? I'm really giving it a headache." Then, after a pause, Jaluta, with a proud smile, continued to address Flora and the others. "By the way, what do you think of this place? The Fire God and the Thunder God you see are my newest additions." Ash and the others could easily sense Jaluta's pride in his expression, and they exchanged glances in bewilderment. "Wait a minute, you cuckold," after a moment's silence, Misty demanded, somewhat disgruntled, "if you capture Pokémon, why don't you put them in Pokéballs? Why are you showing them off like this?" Misty's voice rose in agitation as she spoke. Jaluta. He stared intently at Misty, feeling somewhat offended by her implicit allusions. But he couldn't quite place what was wrong. After a moment's thought, a faint smile crossed Jaluta's face, and he replied with a hint of scorn, "I'm not a Pokémon trainer, just an ordinary family collector. As for the Pokémon you're talking about, if they can't even be seen, then they don't deserve to be called collectibles. Don't you agree? You can enjoy my collection here, but please refrain from making any noise. That's proper etiquette for admiring collectibles." Jaluta finished his words, then quietly sat back in his chair and smiled at Satoshi and the others. Suddenly, the image of Articuno projected on the virtual screen in front of his chair, instantly catching his attention. Jaluta paused, then said to the group, "Alright, enough small talk. I'm off to capture my next collectible." As his voice fell, the iron pillar, which had been contracting, rapidly expanded, carrying Jaluta to a higher level, where he disappeared before Satoshi and the others. Upon hearing Jaluta's words, Satoshi and the others were furious, but completely helpless. Jaluta hadn't had the mental breakdown to free Satoshi and the others early, as he had in the movie. Consequently, they were completely unable to devise any way to rescue the trapped Moltres and Zapdos. Shortly thereafter, Jaluta appeared above the ice island in a hovercraft and launched a barrage of fireballs directly at the ice god, Articuno. Under the barrage of terrifying energy and blazing heat, Articuno's body plummeted to the ground, slamming heavily onto the glacier. Instantly, cracks appeared across the glacier, like a giant spider web falling onto the surface. Boom! With a resounding crack, the entire ice layer instantly shattered, burying Articuno's body. Seeing this, Jaluta's lips curled up, his eyes filled with joy. At that moment, A powerful icy blue beam shot out from the glacier, carrying an incomparably chilling aura, blasting towards the hovercraft's position. An ice beam. Geluta observed the incoming ice beam with indifference, his expression calm as usual, and gently pressed a button near his chair. The next moment, a transparent shield rose around the hovercraft, completely blocking Articuno's ice beam. Simultaneously, the binding ring, which had previously captured Molter's and Zapdos, once again flew out from the space beneath the hovercraft, rapidly approaching Articuno's position. Articuno's ruby-red eyes gazed upon the incoming binding ring, and a sudden, inexplicable chill rose within it. It fluttered its icy blue wings, circling above the entire ice island, attempting to evade the ring's pursuit. It also attempted to use powerful skills and moves to knock the ring down, but to no avail. The material of the confinement rings, crafted by Geluta, seemed specifically chosen for their abilities, rendering the weakened gods of ice, fire, and thunder completely unable to break free. Minutes later, even as Articuno's mournful cry echoed, it too could not escape Geluta's clutches, being captured aboard the hovercraft. At that moment, the Orange Island's gods of ice, fire, and thunder were completely trapped within human technological creations. With the disappearance of the gods of ice, fire, and thunder, the entire natural environment was shattered, tipping towards a more dire situation. As if sensing the drastic shifts in nature, a massive creature dormant deep beneath the ocean floor trembled its closed eyes, as if on the verge of awakening. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.